Good morning, everybody. Yes. It is Wednesday morning. It's the 13th. Oh, Wednesday the 13th of September. Hang on. There's nothing about Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
There's nothing
Friday.
about Wednesday the 13th. What are we worried about? I mean, yesterday was the day a tree fell in my way and all that shit.
You know, that's bad luck, huh?
That's still weird.
Well, it didn't
because-
fall in my way. It actually fell after I'd been through. So it was the weirdest thing because,
We walked in.
yeah, you guys came in before me.
Yes, I actually saw you come park in.
Right.
Actually, yeah.
And then I drove in and I walked through and there was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to see. And
It was
then
clear. It was all
Lakabantu
nice.
got in here and he was like, "Did you see the tree? Like massive tree fell down."
I know what that means. There's something in your past that
Oh,
you
yeah?
need to deal with. But if you look behind you and stare too long, something will fall heavily and disrupt your path.
You should definitely.
So don't look back.
You
Keep
should
looking
become.
forward.
You should become one of those dream people.
I should.
Right?
Maybe I low-key, high-key am already.
Maybe.
Chakrahan
But
vibes,
maybe
yeah.
you could sell like sessions to people. You know, you'd be like,
Mm.
"I am your dream analyst."
Exactly.
Oh my
Lebang
gosh.
Hosanna.
Open your palm. The
Right.
third line represents
And you have-
strength.
You have like music going ding dong, ding
Yeah.
dong, dong, dong.
I mean, I've got the
ding.
dreads
I was-
already.
You got the drip too.
I've
You
got
got
the drip. I just need like the chains and the
There we
crystals
go.
and stuff and candles and incense.
Do
Guys,
it. Go
this
on.
is a business
This is a
opportunity.
business.
Central clairvoyance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is not going to happen. Gareth, how are you besides the hay fever?
I took an antihistamine this morning because I got shat on by the audience yesterday, so I'm feeling okay.
Okay, good.
It's so Gomolemo, who you guys know from the show. I mean, he stood in once or twice while I was away. He's only done the show with me once before, though. He reminded me
Yeah,
this
yeah,
morning.
yeah.
So actually,
Yeah.
you know,
Jeez.
veterans like you
I
and I
actively avoid Gareth.
Why is
Yeah.
that?
Do you know how fun it is when he's not around?
I
Yeah.
because you just
Can't
sit around and do
Yeah,
nothing.
we just rock out when you're not
Just do-
here.
you
you
no.
know? Like-
you don't you fuck around is what it is.
No.
Why would you expose us like that?
I walked into his office the other day, and Gomolemo was sitting there. He's in charge of like all our technical stuff.
Technical, yeah.
He's busy sorting out our
Yes.
internet and all kinds of other things at the moment.
Yes.
He was sitting there watching YouTube videos. He was.
Must be so nice.
I'm like,
Market
Sure.
research.
Ah!
Market research.
Is
You
that what
know?
they're calling it these days?
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'd like a report on my desk since we were doing market research during
Yeah,
the
market research.
office hours.
You
Yeah,
know, how
like a
do
report.
How do we keep
on top of trends. Yeah.
office, culture like fun?
Sure.
Oh,
What,
is
what
that
have
what
you
it is?
found? What
Yeah,
have you
yeah, yeah.
found thus far from all your
laughter
extensive
is the
research?
best medicine.
Are
That's
you
what
now?
I've
Are you now our chief culture officer?
not necessarily, but I think I don't mind moving into that direction.
Okay.
Realizing that laughter is actually the best medicine, especially for Lorna who are sick
So-
right now.
Oh,
So we've
gosh.
got a clairvoyant and we've got a wannabe comedian. That's what I see.
Yeah, because the jokes write themselves.
Listen, guys, it's not me, eh?
All right. Well, hopefully this little cold front which the Cape sent us as a gift is over by tomorrow, and then we're back into
Yeah,
spring.
I think the weekend is gonna start picking up again. It's
Okay.
been horrible. It's so confusing. Like the hay fever is just on the rise. Us like nasally people are just screwed. I think
So-
I'm going on 2 weeks of like just a block nose now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. Dory brought me like some crystals yesterday.
See,
Crystals.
You see, crystals.
Yeah,
I'm seeing it actually.
It's
I'm
either-
seeing it. Yeah.
Either it's some weird, wacky spiritual shit,
No.
or she's trying to sell you meth.
Over the counter. It actually has, it's like methylated something. It's like over the counter crystal that you can get anywhere. I'm gonna steam it, put it in
Wait.
hot water, and just breathe it in. I've got them in my bag. I can give you 1 or 2.
Huh.
yeah, not
This
those
is
kind
where
of
we at
crystals,
now.
people. I just want.
I'm telling you, does it come with a bong?
I mean, you gotta light it up.
It is, there's a technique to it. There's a bit of praying that you do beforehand. No,
Oh
man.
my gosh.
You just throw it in the water and like inhale it in. But I'm gonna try it because like I'm trying everything now.
We continue to be the show that is obsessed with Bajajs.
Is that us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that a real thing?
Unfortunately, it has.
Yes.
It's become a thing.
Every day
Did
it
you-
comes up.
Sorry, I just want to bring this up. Did you guys see the one where they turned it into like a cooler box?
Oh yeah,
Mm.
we played it last week. We played
And the
it.
one where the
Nice.
I didn't play this one because I don't need to. We've seen enough Bajajs on the show to last us for the rest of the year.
and on the road every day.
The one
Every
with-
day.
Aren't you
that-
seeing
that-
a
And
lot
now,
of them?
and now,
all of a sudden, there's so
Yeah.
many.
and
on the
now
road.
I'm getting constant messages and emails from people with attachments that are Bajajs. So
Yeah.
enough.
You did this
This
to
is
yourself.
not the Cliff Central Bajaj.
Yeah, I've seen enough of them now. I'm okay. I don't need any more. But there was one where they made like those concrete dividers that they put in the middle of the highway,
Yeah.
and they had one driving like at fast speeds.
Oh yeah, like spinning around. I saw that.
Well,
video.
no, if they spin that thing around, it'll fall.
I know it topples over.
It'll
It'll
like.
fall. It's taller than it is wide.
So can we, since this is like a Bajaj show now,
We're just
company car?
Yeah, can we get like a Cliff Central company
Well,
car?
they're already the right color, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we can
branding.
just brand it nice Cliff Central, and then it can just roll around.
I was thinking
dancing,
about
yeah.
that, but
What would we actually do with it if we're being?
Oh, we can definitely do like a car show, like a car series, and
yeah,
have
but we
like
can't
a
go on the
small-
highway.
No, yeah, just here in Santon, and we pick up random people, and we just take them from one place to another.
Put a proposal together.
Yeah,
Better be
we'll see.
convincing.
I think you need to do more of this market research before
Guys,
you put together.
I
Back
got
to your
you.
back to your
Back
research.
to your
Back to my
research,
research.
because you're so busy with that.
All right. So, what's been happening with you, Gomolemo? Because we haven't had you on the show for a while. The last time, in fact, you were still talking about like long distance Cape Town relationships.
No, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been that long. So
Well,
that's gone to shit.
Yeah, the last time I think I was here with another show where you were not around, with Flax and Simpio, where I told the people that we broke up and etc. And it was like tough times and doom and gloom. Right.
Tough times never last.
Never last.
You know, tough times never last, right? He lied.
Tough people last.
Exactly.
I just want to say that guy lied. Hey, it's been tough times, eh?
Aw.
No,
It's
that-
been tough times.
That guy's right. He's right. I mean, like I thought about this the other day. Like if you lived 500 years, you wouldn't give a shit about like 5 bad years.
Yeah, true.
Not at all.
But because we only live 100, we think everything has to be measured in our time, right?
I mean, time is relative.
Yeah, you think about someone who looks after a garden, right? They grow a garden, they plant trees,
Yeah.
and all this, and that shit takes years, like 10, 20 years to mature. Most people don't stay in a house for 5, 10 years.
Exactly.
They're out of there in 2 or 3.
Mm.
So what's the point in growing a garden? And the same goes for like a country or anything else. Unless you're thinking long term, like we're going to be in charge of this place for a long ass time. We need to look after it. I think that's part of the problem with all the governments in the world at the moment is they all, unless you're Vladimir Putin, you're
There's
like,
no
I'm going to
strategy.
be here for 50
Yeah,
years.
Yeah.
he's
I'm
just
going to
like,
plant big
I'm
garden.
retiring here.
You can't
Right?
get rid of
Or Xi Jinping. So the only leaders, and I hate to say this because I'm pro democracy, but it seems the only leaders who are thinking long term are the ones who are dictators and have.
Yes.
We're going to be here for 50 years.
I'm
Then
not
they
gonna
think,
lie.
They think big, right? So
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. There was a phase in my life where I was like, I think South Africa just needs like one dictatorship. Just
but it's got to be.
yeah,
so
but that
if
is,
it's
I
the-
know.
if it's the the dictatorship, it's like all or nothing.
Yeah,
So if you throw all in with someone and they're a total crazy genocidal lunatic,
oh, it's
what
gonna
you
be
get.
downhill.
It's what you get.
that's going to be the worst chapter in
Yeah,
all of our history ever. They'll make everything else look like a picnic.
Mm.
But if you find the right person, it could be the best ever. I mean, like you think about how France, when you think about French history, people don't remember, the 1848 Republic, when or the what do they call it, the 14th of Brumaire or whatever. They don't remember any of that shit.
No.
What they remember is Napoleon, Louis the 14th,
mm-hmm.
Charlemagne. These great,
God.
yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
had to throw that in there.
Don't
Charlemagne
you,
the
don't you
God.
love don't you love how Gareth is probably single-handedly the only person on earth that can take a conversation from how your relationship status has gone to shit quite quickly to politics, almost instant.
I see.
it's-
He took us back to blind history for a
Bro,
second.
we
But you
went to
don't-
blind
But you
history.
don't have to blame me because it started with tough times never last.
And
So-
your brain just went clink, politics.
Because
Oh.
when I think of that guy, I'm like, he's
Yeah,
wise. He's very
yeah,
wise.
yeah,
Tough
yeah.
times never last. So, okay, all right. Your tough times carry on.
are lasting.
Yeah, honestly, no, they're not lasting. Like I've had a fairly good.
given up on it
season.
now?
Yeah, I've given up on it. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna be young.
You're gonna be
I'm
alone.
gonna just enjoy.
So
my
alone.
Life. No, not really. You know, life's been good.
Not
Life-
alone, just not committed to anything.
Yeah, not alone, just not committed to it.
Oh, so you're back to
Yeah.
being a whore.
Bachelor,
Oh,
okay?
sorry, my
Bachelor
bad. Sorry,
is
that's
the
the term we're
term.
using. Okay,
Like,
sorry.
yes.
Young and wild and free.
Oh, it must be so nice.
Yes. And I've enjoyed it. Like, even now, the boys and I kind of went on a break. So we took ourselves we just booked out like a place, just here in Bedford View. It was a really nice place.
Oh, like a little
Like an
weekend.
Airbnb.
yeah, like an Airbnb
Ah,
It
vibes.
sounds
It
like
had
a trap house.
It had a nice
Alright.
little garden, it had a nice little pool area. We bride, did nothing.
So it was
funny.
just the boys, you guys just getting some time away from women, refresh.
No, they probably had women there.
Sure, okay, that
I mean-
silence answers that.
You had women there, right?
They came,
Invited them.
They came. So
But like-
actually,
But like the kind of women who'll go to a house full of men. Let's just think about that for a second, Levan.
we were chilling. We were chilling.
Kind of
Okay.
The woman
Kind of women
just arrived.
I'd love to be at a house full of men.
Bedford
were-
View,
You
woohoo!
know, yeah, like views, man. There was views, there was garden, there was scenery, there was food, there was alcohol.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, cheap whores who will come for alcohol.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and views of gardens. This is like
It was-
we're hitting the nail on the head.
It was wholesome vibes.
No, that's good.
yeah,
good.
it was wholesome vibes until it turned into a royal rumble. Then
What happened?
then it
Who
was
started
awkward.
fighting?
These two hands started fighting.
Ah, the woman.
The women. Uh-oh.
That's
Yeah.
why I asked where the
But
women. 'cause-
physical fight?
Oh no, yeah, like it went from you to
Oh, from verbal to physical.
grabbing hair,
Oh, hair was grabbed.
pulling down
Nails.
everything, and then the one grabbed the bottle, and then everything had to kind of
What
like
kind of ratchet girls are you
Kinda-
hanging
kinda-
around?
Oh,
kind of had to get stopped, and we were just like,
was this because of a man, or was this just because the two women
No.
weren't getting along? Because
No.
there's usually a guy at the center of it.
I'll answer this. It's because it's Bedford View.
I will.
That's what it is.
There was a guy in the middle, right?
There was a guy.
Thank
involved.
you.
There
There's
was a
no
guy
way women are
involved.
just gonna be like, "Ugh," unless
Yeah.
there's a guy at the center of it.
Oh, okay. So we only blame women when we can first blame a guy.
Yes,
that's not what I'm
also
saying.
that's also what I've realized about today's
13th
society.
of September,
I-
6:15 in the morning. Lies. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in this
kind of what it
context.
sounded like.
In this context, if you're gonna have a house full of men and women at an Airbnb in Bedford View, a bunch of young people,
Hold on.
What's
and
this
women
big-
are fighting, it has to be because there's guys there
It could,
that are.
okay, could also be because the kind of girls who will go to a house full of guys just on the promise of
Firstly,
free alcohol and some food.
The kind of guys who
Are
are
they-
gonna invite the kind of girls.
No, there's not because
You
guys,
see,
please, guys will invite whichever
Anyone
girls.
and everyone.
Here's what happens whenever I've had a party, you always invite double the number of girls
Facts.
as guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Because what happens is girls are so super flaky that they won't come. They
Yeah,
just
we've got
on-
options. We
on the night
are
they're like,
deciding.
I'm not feeling well, or
Yeah.
what's the other one? It's a far to drive, or I don't
Yeah.
want to drive on my own.
Or
So then
I
you say,
just
well,
don't
bring
wanna
a
be
friend.
there.
Yes.
Bring a friend. They're like, nah, I gotta do that. I gotta look after the. You're like, you didn't think about this yesterday when you said yes, you would love to come.
I just think guys like arranging multiple stock or options.
No.
So every guy will invite 5 girls, and whichever group comes,
We
Yay.
have to because you drop like flies
Flies.
because you're unreliable.
because we know what you guys want. You're not inviting me there because you want to, like,
Maybe,
really get
maybe,
into
but then-
a proper
But then don't,
conversation.
but then
You just
don't,
want me to get there and drink your alcohol, look at your views
All
of
right.
gardens, and
but then
stuff.
don't accept the invitation.
Then why accept the invitation?
Hey, man.
See, this is some
Free-
bullshit.
Yeah,
Free-
yeah,
free liquor?
yes.
Like
Okay,
I
so-
said, we're here for a good time, not a long time. You guys are using me, and I'm using you too. Let's just call it what it is.
Then
I'm coming
why
for the
flake?
good time, and you're just using me
Which-
for the good
no,
time.
Then
No.
when you flake, why flake on the premise of now I know what you want on the day when you're here for a good time, not a long time?
Exactly.
I hear that.
There's
I
no
hear that.
women are so dishonest. This is the problem.
Haibo.
No,
I agree with you.
no, I'm
Bible.
sorry. It's true. If you just said, like, I'm not going to be all hurt and cry and feel sorry for myself. If you just say the day before, 3 days, but whenever I invite you, just go, can't come. Sorry.
Just be
Shut
like,
up.
what's the situation?
But
And
you
I'm
see
like,
what-
nah, it's a
If
group of
women
my
are
friends
just-
in this situation, and
Yeah.
it's like this, like this, like this.
But there's no
Then
lying from our
you can
side.
honestly be
No.
like,
Oh, come on,
You can
guys.
honestly-
There's
we never lie.
always lying
We're
from a guy. A guy will never tell you what exactly the purpose of that invite. It's always shrouded in other things. No, just me and a couple of guys just hang out.
Because if
No.
we say, I want you to
It's
come
not
over and
that.
maybe we can have sex at the end of
Look.
it, you'll never come.
well,
So-
of course
But now,
not.
Those are rules you women have made because you don't want us to be direct about this stuff. You want us to play games.
No, they want
stories.
They have
We
this.
want
they
I
have
want a
this
love
thing.
story.
They want honesty, but it needs to be.
There's a way,
palatable
guys. There's
for
a
them.
cadence. No. It's not palatable for us. It's palatable, full stop. There's a way that you say, look, I'd like to invite you over as a lady to my place for such and such a thing. If you're that direct and that blunt, it's kind of off-putting. Hey, come through so we can fuck.
Right.
Think
Okay.
about
So
there's just a way,
so
there's
then-
a cadence.
okay. So if we're dishonest and you're dishonest, then that's
Then-
why it's not working.
100%.
Got you.
Let's
All
agree.
right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Simpiwe, who's here this morning and is producing the show because Ryan is away,
On
says
leave.
Gomolemo is avoiding relationships left, right, and center. I mean, she
Okay,
knows.
Dad,
She
put
knows
my
you well.
business out there. Like,
She knows you well, so I'm
Yes,
going to take her
there's-
word for it.
there's been a couple of
Are
offers.
you
and I've-
commitment phobic?
Offers.
Let me answer one at a time. Am I commitment phobic? No. Right. I'm just in a space right now where I'm not trying to be in a committed relationship. I'm not even trying to commit to anybody in any kind of sense, because I'm just like, I am healing.
So you're commitment
Were
phobic.
you hurt?
I was.
What
Oh.
by the
was.
Cape Town thing that didn't work?
Yeah, I was.
Were you,
I
like,
really,
heartbroken?
I
Oh,
was
jeez.
really falling there. Hey, I was really within.
Sorry, dude.
So
All right. We're not Dr. Hanan. so-
yeah.
So Lebang, you and I are not going to solve
We're
this.
not
man.
like, but it does make sense.
This man is a basket case.
Yo.
I don't want to know about his relationship shit anymore. What I think is pathetic this morning, what is pathetic is both Lebang and I have got like toilet
Oh,
rolls.
I'm
Guys,
surrounded by
yo.
sick people. That's what
It's
it
actually
is.
so embarrassing.
This is so bad.
Oh, and we
Like,
broadcasters?
we're like,
Ugh, it's messy. It's
you walked in
so
here.
messy.
Before I'd even said hello to her, she was like, at the
Yeah.
door. I was like, sis.
Hey man, I've got some crystals from Dory.
Well, you
that-
haven't used them, have you?
Crystal
yeah, no, I'm
meth.
gonna go inhale them after the show, and I'll probably be.
What do you have to cook them on the stove?
I have to like put them in like steamy water and like cover
This
myself
sounds
with a
like
towel.
a drug thing. I swear.
I'm not gonna say no to trying new things.
either drugs-
People have
Mhm.
remedies for everything.
It's
Some
either drugs or it's some sort of communing with the ancestors, spiritual.
no.
Listen, we got to.
Okay.
Okay, I want to ask you guys this
From
because
Dory.
neither of you two were involved in this conversation yesterday after the show. So Simpiwe and Jane and Yaku
Yeah.
from Catalytic and
Yes.
I were in the office at the bottom there. And Jane started telling us about witchcraft,
hmm
about these. There's this famous Gogo, what's her name?
Gogo
Gogo
Maweni.
Maweni. Okay, no, I didn't. And there's another one, Gogos,
Oh, there's too many.
the one who she has the beef with.
I really can't keep up with them.
I know who you're
Simpiwe
talking
knows.
about.
Simpiwe knows.
Simpiwe,
Just
tell
drop us
us.
a comment here quickly, Simpiwe. Who's the other one? Because this, I heard stories I've never heard in my life before.
Yes.
There's stuff going on in this country
Yep.
that some people know nothing about.
Yep.
I had no idea who Gogo Maweni
You're
was.
not the target market.
Yeah.
No, but I
It's-
want to know this shit.
Don't you know KZN Limpopo?
Yes.
Other
The eternal beef.
yeah,
So
other
Limpopo
Yeah.
is
Number one.
fascinating because
Yes.
Limpopo, they're obsessed with witchcraft,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
people
Jane.
say that.
Jane is convinced, we're going to get her on the show, so don't worry. She can
Mm-hmm.
hear it from her own mouth. But Jane is convinced that she is surrounded at her house in Limpopo by witches. She says the woman next door to her, forget her name, ended up, she heard footsteps on her roof, Jane.
Mm.
This woman, who's an older lady, she used to be a teacher,
Like a granny type setup.
she ended up naked
Yeah.
on the ground outside Jane's house at 3 a.m. or whatever, cackling or laughing. Jane is, I mean, listen, if that happened, I'd also think there was a witch.
Maybe
That's like
maybe
witchcraft
Bamloile.
101.
A
Maybe they
witch.
lawyered her.
A witch is
Yeah.
the right conclusion.
Yeah.
If some old woman is naked on the ground outside your house after you've heard footsteps on your ceiling and she's laughing, that's a witch.
It is.
What else? What other explanation could there be?
Or
definitely
maybe
sounds like a witch.
they lawyered her.
Okay, by the way,
the witch
The other one-
the real witch,
No.
lawyered
has
her.
been
Wait, just
bewitched.
Yeah.
Before you even start with your own conjecture here, like Gogos Koten is the
Oh,
other
it's
one.
cutting.
All right, so these two women are they
beefing.
acknowledge they're witches.
Mm.
They say they are. That's what they're here for. They've been filmed in
That's their
cemetery.
whole brand.
In cemeteries late at night, they
Yeah.
make muti. They
Yeah.
they invite other women. Like Gogo Maweni said, if there are men all over South Africa who have not paid their maintenance,
She's the one that allegedly lawyered SK. Yeah.
that's
her baby
now,
daddy.
When you
Her
say
baby
okay, so
daddy.
when you say
Yeah.
lawyered, you've got to explain what that is.
Bewitched.
Oh, like
was-
bewitched.
right.
Yes.
Put a
bewitched.
curse you,
Yeah,
curse you.
No,
because-
because I've often said that lawyers are witches, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
This Gogo Maweni,
Yeah,
Yes.
she's like a properly evil person.
100%.
Yeah, no, she's
And people are really genuinely afraid of her. Now, you might be listening to this thinking, what a lot of nonsense.
it's real.
But
Real shit.
people believe in certain things.
Mm.
And if
Mhm.
they believe in them, then in their world, it becomes real. Like, there are people who genuinely believe, they go down on their knees every night and pray that the Lord is listening.
Mm.
He will help them. There are people who believe they're witches walking around in their ceilings, fall down outside naked and start cackling, that they're witches.
Mhm.
That happens.
Mhm.
You cannot deny that they create the conditions in their own mind for this stuff to materialize, for it to manifest. So I hear these stories and I am fascinated by it. Because now when you talk about SK and this lawyering, okay,
Mhm.
so what happened is that this Gogo Maweni started dating this guy. He was a famous performer,
Yeah,
singer, right?
He's an actor.
actor.
Yes.
This guy was well known.
Mm.
He's lost his mind.
Mhm.
He was outside some hotel shouting at the security guard like a drunk, deranged person.
Mm.
And
What was he saying?
I
Do
can't
you
something
know me?
Do you know me?
Know me?
And then because they showed me the video
Yeah.
and everything, I went down the rabbit hole in this one
Oh
in
my
a big way.
gosh.
Let me tell you something. I'm all in for this story. I want to hear the whole.
Yeah,
damn.
it's very layered.
And then I
very
said, I
hectic.
made the huge mistake of saying, let's invite.
Oh, you
Gogo-
said
No, listen.
what?
I said, let's invite Gogo Maweni and Gogos Koteni here.
Uh-uh.
See, that's exactly
Uh-uh.
So that's
You
exactly
don't
the
want that mess up in Cliff Central.
No, I agree
Go
with you.
do it over there.
So Jane and Simpiwe went, no.
Nah, dude.
Now, Simpiwe is like, she's a little skeptical about a lot of this stuff. I mean, she can explain it herself when Jane comes on with her next week.
Mm.
But Jane is all in. Like,
So
Jane tells me what these witches do
yeah,
is they will steal your luck from you.
Mhm.
So
they'll
if
block it.
they will give you some money or something, and in them giving you that, they will take in return all of your good luck and good fortune,
Mm.
and your life will become like SK's.
So remember,
Disaster.
Gareth, to your point that everybody believes what they believe because
Right.
of whatever reason.
Right.
When you grow up in the rural areas, I'll use Limpopo as an example. When you grow up in the rural areas, and especially in an era like, let's say, 40 years ago, when it was just brutal and it was difficult and
Right.
it was horrible, a lot of people did spend a lot of their time on things that were almost like, how do I benefit? How do I gain personally? Compared to my neighbor. So there was so much time that it was like, oh, my neighbor's child is going to university. I'm jealous.
My child must go to
My child must go to university.
So-
They go to a witch and they say,
Right,
witch,
yeah.
I can't believe this. My neighbor, their child is going to university. What am I doing different?
Yeah.
The witch will say, take this, pour it in their garden.
Yeah.
And that's life. And then
and then they
exact-
believe it. So guess what? It
You-
starts to happen.
Even if
And
Yes.
if the person in the house where they pour the shit finds out, then she's like, oh, they poisoned me.
yeah.
Now I'm going to be failure because they start believing it.
Well, no,
It
not even
happens.
because they don't know that they've been poisoned, right? Witchcraft is usually done very subtly. Like, it's not like hey, I'm gonna
And by
lawyer
the way,
you.
like, it seems there's a lot of these witches. You don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to go far.
No,
you
no,
playing
I don't have to go to. I don't have
Do
to
you
go
know
to.
town?
I don't have to go to KZN
Joburg,
to find
CBD.
an umtagat.
No, not
Oh.
anymore. No,
Right?
it's
So-
right here now. It's
on
crazy.
Bree by the taxi rank, they are selling anti-witchcraft.
Yeah, look at these ladies.
Hey.
Yeah, I've got a picture
Yeah,
of them.
it's
Yeah.
it's a
Gogo
real- it's a real
Maweni
thing.
and Gogos Koteni. Look at these two.
Yeah, you know what they've done, which I don't agree with. They have sadly taken what I believe has like pure parts of it. So there's parts of gifted people who are there to help people.
Listen,
Yes.
There's gifted people who,
Laban,
and they are
let me-
just.
Let me put your mind at rest.
Okay.
You are not here to defend black culture
No,
or tradition
no.
or any of that shit. We're not mocking and ridiculing culture. What we're saying is that there are these things happening.
Yeah.
It's a reality for
Mhm.
people.
100%.
I just want to know all about it.
Yeah.
And I will not invite them here because
Thank
of the
you.
reaction that I
Yeah,
saw
no.
from.
Yeah, no.
Because Jane is convinced if they come here, I said to her, but I've got strong muti as well. I've got a laboratory at home. She's like, wow, you're also a witch. I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I said to her, but I want to know how this stuff works.
Mm.
Because clearly it's
My
got
issue is
Remember they used to do it before football matches.
Yeah.
yes, and they still do it.
Still do it.
Yeah, still do it.
Our
I know.
politicians all believe in this shit.
Yeah.
I know a couple of like white people who go see like what are they called, like
Tarot card reading.
tarot
Yeah, of
card
course.
reader.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
almost a
No.
similar vibe.
White people go for their astrology charts.
It's literally that exact thing. It's
and
like,
Vibe.
witchcraft
Same,
is
same.
not a black thing.
oh no, it's not.
White
It's global.
White people there are still witches. There's this one crazy crackpot woman I follow just because I want to laugh. She's like this overweight 70-something-year-old woman, and she wears all these floral dyed like long muumuus and yashmaks or whatever, and she dances around trees, and she's like, oh, the trees are giving me the love of the earth. We must protect the earth. I mean, she's a total raving lunatic, but that's a white witch,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and she's doing a thing.
So we've got to make the distinction here. There's sangomas
Mhm.
Yeah.
who do good things.
Yes.
Yes.
And then there
Who are healers.
umtagatis who do bad things.
Yes. You decide what you use them for, and also
Right.
once you step into that realm, you almost can't get out. It's a very
Now,
dangerous
that's a good question,
rabbit hole.
Because
But
a lot of
very
celebrities
dangerous.
have tried to become witches or sangomas,
Mm.
and then they think they can have both worlds. They can be a celebrity and a witch, and you can't. Once you're in that
I'm
realm, you got to
sorry.
stick in that, right?
I'm sorry. Like a bad dream doesn't make you a sangoma.
No,
or
that
a
doesn't
sangoma.
mean you suddenly have to go and
Yeah,
twasa.
and you
like,
know,
yeah.
and I
Mm.
think they've like I do believe like yes, there are people who are spiritually gifted.
Yeah.
I just feel like it got to a point where now it's a trend.
It's in fashion.
It's in fashion.
Suddenly
like
everybody
celebrities
has
wanna
got the
do
calling.
It.
Yeah.
Everybody wanna.
Well, it's like all these things. People think it makes them interesting,
and
Mm.
gives them an identity because they don't have any personality.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's
and,
what happened.
And
And
now
that's-
you're a
that's
sangoma
unfortunate.
that's Christian, and you're just like, okay, these two things technically don't go together.
Well, it's not that they don't go together. It's, again, it goes back to what it's being used for. So I
Hmm.
know some prophets that are healers, but that are also sangomas to heal, that pray to God. It's just about, what am I using it for? If I'm using it for good,
Listen,
we're all praying to a
People
higher power.
build their own. I mean, how many different kinds of churches are there? There used to be just the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, right? Those are the
Yeah.
only two that existed for like 600 or 700 years. Then suddenly there were all these Protestant churches. Then there were all the Baptist churches, the Methodist churches,
Mm.
the Evangelical, the Lutheran. Now you've got there's a different form of Christianity every time you kick over a rock. So let's not pretend that people aren't inventing their own versions of this every single day.
Whatever
So
works for you.
some of them will be Christian sangomas. Some of them will be like traditional sangomas in the sense that they don't believe in any of that Western religion
Yeah.
stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be people, like in anything, who are genuinely trying to practice the evil shit.
The scammers. Whew.
And the
Oh,
scammers.
whew.
That's a whole different
Like, that's a whole, you see, that we can discuss.
You're the queen of scam on
Sure,
the show.
guys,
so-
the scammers will get, somebody will walk up to you, you'll be walking in Joburg CB and someone will come to you and say, stop, I feel an energy. You've got a calling. Take this number and call it. You'll call that number. They'll put you in some dark house. They'll tell you all about your life. They'll tell you about things that you've put on Facebook. Like, aren't these your parents' names? You were born on this day and age. And you sit there and you're like, how do they know all of this about me? Then they'll say, give us 2,500 rands and we'll multiply it in 6
Pastamboro.
months. And people fall for that.
times.
It's crazy what's
Well,
going on out
please,
there.
Gomolemo's been trying that with women for ages. He goes to sangomas and try to improve
Me?
his
Ah,
relationships.
no.
And we know how well that's worked out.
Listen,
Yeah.
listen.
Tough times never last.
Listen, Mina. It's in the looks, guys. It's in the
Okay.
looks.
All right. Well,
Okay, Pharrell.
all right. So here are some white sangomas. These are two people who have actually. Now, I've always thought this is absolute bullshit. I've got a relative who has done this. Okay. And I think it's nonsense. But if I said that to him, he'd have a shit fit.
Wait, you had a relative that twasad?
Yeah.
That's
The
interesting.
whole thing.
Why
Like,
do you think it's bullshit?
burns little things with
Sage.
a proper
Mhm.
yeah. He's into this.
He has the
got
blue
long,
and yellow
long hair.
candles.
He's got the beads and
But did he
shit
go
all
for the
over.
actual experience and he...
The whole thing proper in knee deep.
So why do you think it's bullshit?
It's bullshit. White people doing this stuff. It's nonsense.
It's
I don't
not that it's
know.
bullshit. It's
It's 'cause
bullshit
it's a white person.
because
I say it's bullshit.
yeah,
Because it's a white person?
White people doing this shit.
I don't know.
I think it's just like, again, it's a trend. It's a cool. Maybe this person is just crazy.
Crazy.
I think
Or answering a calling.
Got a bad dream and then he's just like
he speaks like 60% Zulu now.
Oh.
Let him. It's his
Nkabyam.
personality.
Oh, Nkabyam.
Are we like...
All right.
Please bring him.
I will-
Please.
Yeah,
bring
sure.
him.
And then
Bring him.
Then if I bring him, I'm gonna bring Gogolemo and
Wait,
Gogos
Yeah,
Scotend
on
as
the
well.
day
No,
when
no.
Gogolemo only comes,
Wait,
tell
wait.
me so I don't come.
Wait.
That's all. I
You
don't
can
want
bring
anything
one
short
of
this
them.
time.
You can bring one of them, not Gogolemo.
You want Scotend?
Scotini
Why
is
is she
fine.
the better looking one?
No, they're
Yes.
both hideous.
There we go.
She
No,
is-
he
she
just
is-
said yes.
She is better looking.
Which
He
one?
just
Okay,
said
look on
yes.
the screen. Which one is Scotend? Left or right? Because they're
Scotini
both hideous.
on my right. Right.
All
and
of our
then
rights.
yeah,
Scotend is the right hand.
yeah. And then
Maweni.
Maweni is the one where she's the one that lawyered SK and
You're
she's
scared of her.
Yeah,
I can't believe we're making like kholoya people in fashion. Like having a problem in your marriage, want to keep your lover,
I'm
come
gonna-
to me and make them trapped forever. I think that's like,
Yeah, I
ugh.
mean, Carl says quite rightly, like white people believe in homeopathy, which is just the same as muti, right? I mean, I'm sorry for those people who are like into it. My mother loves homeopathy. Have 3 drops of this. And I'm like, there's no way scientifically that works.
Let me ask you something, Gareth. As human beings, because this is such a global thing that we're looking at, we all want to kind of connect with like a spiritual
Yes.
otherness. Because if this
Well, you
was
say
all,
you say
well,
all, but
okay.
let's say 99%.
majority. Yeah.
If we didn't have this other side to believe in, and all we had to believe in was
Science.
I'm born, I die. I'm alive right now. This is it. When I'm dead, I'm gone. If that's it,
Mhm.
do you think we would be living in the way that we're living? Because so many of us are so desperate to connect
I
with
am.
something
I am.
more.
I don't. I
Okay,
don't-
like you're like one in a
Yeah, but
trillion.
and I
Yeah,
can
but you're also
promise-
not 100% okay. You
I-
no good glass. Like,
You-
you
you
know,
think I'm-
there's days where you get,
I might be a little crazy. I mean, but I'm living. What do you mean normally?
mean-
like
I mean,
don't.
the general population, if all we had to believe in was birth, life, death, the
but
end,
that's magic all on its own.
I agree with that.
Objectively, it's incredible
It
that you're
is
even
beautiful.
alive.
I completely agree
You
with
were
that.
the sperm
Yes.
that made it.
I made it out of all the millions. I got chosen.
Billions. And
Yes.
every person in your family tree going back to the time of Adam, if that was real, that's the chances of each of them meeting and having sex at exactly the right moment to produce
For
every one of
you.
your
Yes.
ancestors.
Yes.
And then all those ancestors not dying in war or in being killed by an animal or something and actually having sex at the right time,
Yes.
all the way up the chain.
And you made it.
The plausibility of this is absolutely infinitesimal. It is
Yes.
tiny. You could win the lottery 100 times in a row and you still wouldn't be as lucky as to be alive.
100%. And I
Right?
agree with you. That is the
I
truth.
agree.
So
I agree.
the miracle's
However,
already, the
The
miracle
miracle's
has
already
happened.
there.
Right.
Human beings are almost longing, and not all of them, but we're longing for more as far as what is our purpose? Why are we here? We have to
Yes.
believe that there is more to just this. And that's why there's this hunger across the globe for the spiritual connection, whether it's that religion or this religion or speaking to your ancestors or what, we almost long to know, why the fuck am I here? And we'll do
And-
anything to figure that out. I
and
think it's almost
honestly,
in us.
Not everything can be explained through science.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, I get
so
that.
it's that other gray area that's like, okay,
I get that,
in
but-
that, what is that?
But what
Yeah.
you fill those questions with
Yeah.
tells me a lot about you. Like if you fill that stuff up with crystals and homeopathy and star charts and sangomas, and it tells me about it. I'm not judging. I don't think you're an idiot. I just think you're filling those questions up with stuff that I don't think is particularly interesting or important. I mean, I find it curious, but I'm not going to devote my life to the study of it.
You're not the guy.
But isn't that still better than committing your life to evil and being like Gogolemo Modise, right?
No, 100%.
I mean, like, it's just fascinating. So Karras says, this is an interesting question. In our estate, there is a huge debate about the Homeowners Association allowing traditional ritual slaughter of animals. What are your thoughts? And this is always, I don't know why, but it becomes like a hugely divisive question. Because I think this could be solved very simply.
With mind your business?
Mind your business.
Drink water.
Mind your
Drink
business.
water, mind your business?
Yeah, mind your business. But also, like, I can't go and have a wedding in my garden. Right? I can't.
Why?
Well,
if your garden is good enough and
taxes,
you've got a big enough space, I suppose. But
it's mine.
I think that we need places where people can perform these things that are like community spaces, where people can look after them.
No.
Like, we need more community things in our neighborhoods. We need parks. We need areas which kids can play in. I mean, my little nephews live in this estate that I live in, right? And they ride their bikes around. And I think, how lucky are they? Because when I was a kid, we didn't have some safe place to ride our bikes around. Look, I mean, we didn't give a shit. Our parents didn't care either, so we could wear wherever we wanted. But you couldn't do that in the suburbs. You couldn't do that in the townships. You couldn't do that in some parts of South Africa. If you're in a safe place, kids can play. I think we need more places where people can do their things.
I feel.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go for it.
I feel. What's the point of private property?
Thank you.
You can't do what you want.
If I can't do what I want
I
in
agree.
it.
I'm
with you.
paying.
I'm with you.
You know, because at the end of the day, if it's in my space, right, I should be allowed to do what, as long as it doesn't, in some sense of a word, like infringe on you.
Now you see, this is where, because now you're going to get some nosy,
you see, but now you're being nosy.
busybody next door.
Her name starts with a
But
K.
she's going to say,
She starts with a K.
I hate to say that it's probably a woman. She's going,
I can't believe they're doing this next to my house.
Oh,
Yeah, but
So-
it's not in your house.
no, I'm with you.
Yeah,
dude.
it's still, this
listen,
part is my house.
when
I
we
should be allowed to.
when
do
we
what I
live
want.
close to each other, which we do,
we do
in
now.
urban
We live on
environments,
top of each other, yeah.
we have to be understanding. And that goes for both sides.
Both
of this
sides.
argument.
Thank
Both
you so much.
sides, yes.
So last year, my best friend lost her dad, and they grew up in Danefern all her life. And that's her home. That's the only home she's known and had.
Right.
The end.
She doesn't have some place in the
There's no Machaye.
There's
We're
no
not
Makhaya.
traveling to the
Right.
homelands to bury. Her father is being buried in 4 ways because that's where she was raised.
Mhm.
Part of the ceremony in burying her father is to slaughter an animal on the property where she was raised and where he passed on living.
Yes.
It's a private ceremony. And it's part of the ceremony for the animal to die there. The blood of the animal needs to go into the ground of that home. That's part of the ceremony. Can I tell you the uphill that we had to go through just to get clearance for that? The
But you
Danefern
got it
community,
eventually.
we got
Good.
it. No, but we had to like sneakily do it because the Danefern community were like, apparently they're trying to kill an animal there by number 45. Can you believe it? Mind you, the plot itself.
You know what I
is
like about all of this is that every time y'all have a distinct voice
yeah.
for the.
Yebo. It's them.
There's like a Karen voice.
Yebo.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But
It was
you know-
it was so sad, guys, that we had to go through extreme
So-
lengths. The cops had to get involved
okay, but let's
for the
just
clearance.
dial it back because I'm on your side on this thing.
And we weren't like we weren't
My
even
chat
doing
is-
it in public in front
I
of
have
anyone.
neighbors, and if I've got people around, I know that we got to keep the noise at a reasonable level.
Mm.
If I don't, they will say, "Hey, can you turn the music down?" Or it's 3 a.m. or
Sure.
whatever. But if they go straight to the police, I'm gonna be like, "Fuck you."
Dude,
Yeah,
what the
it becomes
hell?
okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So it's
beef
like
now.
this. It's beef now.
So I would say, like, there's a way to accommodate people. You are not going to, with your SPCA credentials,
Hey.
stop the people next door from doing what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Whether it happens here or happens there,
Yeah.
that's what they need to do.
100%.
So, and also, by the way, you probably had steak last night for supper.
yeah.
The animal
So
that
is
you're
it
eating,
better because it got cut in a butcher
Yeah.
somewhere
Well,
and
look,
it's like
as long as
'cause
I didn't
it's-
see
you
the
know,
animal
is it
getting
tasteful?
killed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because
yeah.
this is what happens, right? People externalize the locus of control. What they
Yeah.
do is if I want to switch on my air conditioner in my house in Minneapolis
Mm.
and burn thousands of kilowatts of fossil fuels, I will offset that by telling people in the third world they're not allowed to burn fossil fuels. Then I'll feel like a better person.
Exactly.
If you're going to kill an animal, don't kill it next door. Kill it somewhere
Somewhere
else.
else.
But I stand by the fact that we still need like community spaces because
Sure.
people need to like actually get together in places.
Yeah.
And most
yeah.
people's houses and gardens are not that big.
Mm.
They don't have a lot of space.
Mm.
And we need spaces for these things. But I agree with Gomolemo. What you do in your private property is your
Yeah.
business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my thing is, you know what actually bothers me about like a lot of these complaints? Things like this happen once every who knows how many years. It's not a
an
every
ongoing
every
weekend.
weekend
Every
thing.
weekend they're bringing in like a herd of cattle.
Dude.
Exactly. So in my mind, I'm like, are you honestly telling me you can't allow you can't allow yourself to just let another culture just do its thing?
It has nothing to do with that. It all boils down to control. That's all that it's about. It's I
Carl-
want to
Carl
control
says-
what's happening in this
Carl
space.
says if you offered those whites some free biltong from that cow, they're sorted. But the
That's
fact is,
zing.
like, okay, I understand. Like, my sister's a massive animal rights activist. Okay?
yeah, and they
She's a
exist.
huge-
Yeah.
And I hunt.
Do you?
Yes.
Are,
So
you? Are we gonna see a picture of you next to a lion one day?
I'm not gonna talk.
Can we like
No,
go?
you won't.
Can we do
No.
it like one day?
You won't see a picture like that because I'm not looking for trouble with animal rights activists.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So my sister knows that I've shot antelope before,
Mm,
and she knows she's not going to talk me out of it.
mm.
And I know right now there are probably people going, "Oh, we used to like you, but now we think you're a
Still
monster,
jump off a
Yeah.
bridge.
a monster."
Yeah.
I don't care what you do, as long as you don't make yourself a nuisance
No,
Yes.
or break the law
Yes.
Sure.
or hurt children
Mm,
Yes.
or like deliberately hurt animals. Like,
mm.
obviously, there's going to be animal sacrifice as a part of eating steak, as a part of religious ceremonies.
Yeah.
And who the hell? I mean, if you go and read the Bible, there's an animal sacrifice every couple of pages.
Every couple of
right?
pages.
And now what? You're going to say, oh, we've evolved beyond that because you think you're superior.
Exactly.
But then when someone else does it, they haven't evolved.
Sure.
Yeah.
So don't give me that. The Jews back in the chapters of Genesis and Exodus is just animal sacrifice after animal sacrifice.
Mm.
Then the Christians later on at the temple, they're doing all of this stuff too. We know that the ultimate sacrifice is Jesus. They sacrificed a human, right? He
3.
sacrificed himself.
It was him
supposedly.
and his 2 homies.
Right, but
Yeah.
he was a sacrifice. He was
Yeah.
the scapegoat.
Mm,
So don't pretend that sacrifice isn't part of your faith if that's what you are.
mm.
And not that long ago, this is how the Romans used to behave.
Sure.
You know?
Just keep it moving. Like,
Honestly,
just focus on yourself, queen and king. Don't get involved in other people's
People's
business. If you
Thank
are
you.
curious,
So-
ask the questions
That-
and say, "What
that-
is this? How does it
Right,
work?"
Rather
or-
educate
or
yourself.
rather-
Or
Rather
take that
educate
day
yourself.
off and go.
And
Go to
go
Harties
s-
for
yeah,
the day.
and go away.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's literally a one day thing. So just
Yeah.
drive away.
All right, so
somewhere.
Darren says, my neighbors drink brandy and play Afrikaans music. That's worse than a crying
I
out.
hear that.
Paul says, keep your shit to yourself. Don't force me to join your loud party just because you haven't figured out what volume control is. Fair enough,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
Our neighbors let us know when and where, and we should rather not be home. There we go.
There
Lovely.
we go.
Beautiful.
Look at that.
And you know what's crazy? A lot
That's
of the
people
times,
working together.
Yeah,
Sure.
a lot of the times people are informed that this is going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not just gonna like wake up that morning and
And
decide.
then there's a sheep
there's a
next
sheep
door.
just-
Okay,
know, yeah.
but lovely lady D says, how do you guys not believe people do witchcraft?
Who's you guys?
Who's you
in
guys?
this room, there's
Emma,
one
babe,
person
there's-
that doesn't believe in witchcraft.
Just one.
Just one.
Don't put us all in the
Don't
same
involve
bus.
us. We're not speaking French. It's not we. It's
Uh,
just Gareth.
I think she's referring to the comments section, but because you two got so sensitive about this, I'm inviting Gogomawene
Oh,
next week.
Hold
So
on, we agreed. Not her.
Yeah.
Listen,
we
there's
voted.
plenty of like Gogos out
Yeah,
there.
there's good
Hell,
ones.
you could even bring Boiti for all I know.
but didn't she trust her as well?
Yes.
And Gigi Lemaine. Why don't you bring a good Gogo? Bring
Yeah.
a good one that's doing good and helping people and healing people. then you can get some actual education into the inside of this.
I'm kind of more interested in the evil ones.
Well, there you go.
I mean, you do need a balance. You do need.
I always
need
used
know
to.
the
Yeah.
I
balance.
always liked the villain in
Yeah,
every show
you
I
do
ever
seem
watched.
like the
So
top.
Simpiwe says people are so entitled. Recently, I was at a braai. This is our Simpiwe, and she says one of the neighbors came in fuming and kicked the braai stand.
What the hell?
Yeah, people.
Can I guess what the neighbor was?
No, because no.
Please do. Actually,
no.
please
but-
do.
Well, now you have to because now go on.
Go on. Like
Was the neighbor white?
No, but
No.
what do you mean?
Really?
Because
no
Indian.
black.
Really? That's
Okay,
Black
even
man.
more interesting.
Black
yeah,
man.
but now hang on. That tells us more about you than it does about
No,
the neighbor.
man. I mean, look,
No, it does.
contextually,
It kinda does.
in cases where these things happen, the
Uh,
majority of
oh,
the people that do that.
But if we say like the majority of people who commit crime, then everybody says you're racist. So careful about these suppositions.
I hear you.
Okay,
I
so-
hear you. And look,
so
I'm,
here's the deal.
I'm glad that I'm
No, no,
wrong
no.
because this is way more interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
but no, wait.
That's fine.
This story is one story, but I also want to get to this. These people who are so cross and unhappy in their own life
Yeah.
that they hate seeing other people having
Just have
fun.
a good time.
Mm,
That is where it comes. All of this stuff comes from. Whether it's the sacrificing of the animal, the having a party, the kids riding around on the bicycles. Like you can either look at this and go, I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom, and the world is wonderful, and people are getting along, and you could be part of that getting along,
mm.
or you can go, I'm gonna stop other people's fun because my life is miserable.
Your
Mm.
life is either Marvel colorful or DC dark and blue.
Oh, that is so. How did Marvel get
I
dragged?
like that. I
Marvel
like,
and
I
DC
like that.
getting
I like that.
dragged.
All right, so were you at this braai where this neighbor came
No,
in and kicked the
so-
stand?
So I
Context.
wasn't at. I had left just before that happened.
Yeah.
Right. So I was there, and the braai was starting to happen. My friend was playing like music out of his car. So, to an extent, right now that I'm calmer and I'm a calmer person, to an extent, I can understand where the neighbors are coming from, right? Because we're playing music, right? And it's like Monday, right? And it's
Monday,
like
okay.
it's like Monday. We're playing music. We're having a braai, you know.
Hmm.
Was it a public holiday or just a random Monday?
It's just a random Monday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So.
Hey, people need to have their Mondays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
this
like
is-
we come from like some Mondays are hectic, so we just gathered by my friend's place, had the braai. My friend is playing music, cool. I leave, right, for like a brief 30 to an hour. I come back, it's ashes to ashes, dust to
Everything's
dust.
shut down.
Everything is shut down. It's
Mm.
quiet. Meat is on the floor.
Oh no!
I'm just like, hold on.
What the hell happened? here?
Yeah. What did you miss?
What did I miss? They're like, it was a movie.
Mm.
Neighbors came. They started shouting, and then the one guy came and kicked the braai stand, almost burning a couple of people. And then the one dude literally walked to my friend's car and just switched off the car.
Oh man. I
So
was
it
pissed.
literally almost turned into a brawl between my
Oh.
my
You
friends and
seem to be around a lot of brawls, whether it's girls fighting.
Potential brawls.
a potential. It didn't escalate.
So,
Like
so give us a little bit more context. So, this house that you guys were buying at, is it like just a house in a neighborhood? Is it inside an estate?
it's a house in a neighborhood. So it's
Okay.
like, think about it as we in the hood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a Kasi vibe.
What time was
situation.
this?
This is like, I think I like around 7-ish.
7 p.m. on a Monday.
So-
Yeah.
I look again. You could choose to be understanding, or you could choose to be a dick.
Yeah.
And
And
And I know-
my friend's biggest thing was telling us to keep it down is one thing, because we all understood that.
But you can also ask nice.
Yeah, it's them
have to go, like,
barging into
kick-
the yard
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
And
your
then-
space.
and then
Yeah.
kicking braai stands
No,
down.
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But you see, this is also as a result of how close we live to each other,
yeah,
which
it's-
is not normal.
mm.
Like people need a
breathing room. Just
well, bit of-
Space, yeah.
and this goes for relationships. This goes for children. I mean, in your case, Labang, you sometimes just need to have some space from your kids.
100%.
This goes for neighbors.
Mm.
And I think that we're all piled so close to each other in like buildings, blocks of flats,
Mm.
apartments,
Mm.
townhouses,
Mm.
estates. Unfortunately, when you're that close to people, you've got to come to compromises
Yeah.
sometimes. So there's a nice way to do it, or there's a shitty way to do it. What I think about the shitty way to do it is that then you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, because that person's not going to suddenly move.
That's the thing.
So you're going to be stuck with them for at least a couple of years. So if you start off on the wrong foot, and listen, no neighborhood is perfectly harmonious all the time,
yeah.
because humans want to do their thing.
My friend's mom already is just like, I'm just waiting for that man to have a bri.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause
Yeah.
now it's
Now it's beef now.
right.
Yeah.
You don't
And-
want that.
And also, like, if he was told about the braai, for example, like, hey, we're going to be doing a braai on Monday at 7 p.m. Please be aware there'll be a bit of noise. Then he absolutely has no right to just come in there. But if you guys kind of just did it haphazardly, he obviously should maybe go there before coming to kick braai stands. It's coming to talk to you guys first.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's a bit loud. Maybe he's got kids. Maybe he's got work in the morning. Lord knows. Can you guys please keep it down? Versus I'm just coming
What
in there.
if you invite Gogo Maweni to your bride? Because no one will mess with you then, right?
Like, can we have like a Gareth's guest, and it's just Gareth and Gogo Maweni? Just we will
I'll tell
leave.
you what, I'll get along with her.
Yeah.
I probably will laugh a lot. I saw her being interviewed by DJ Spoo, and they seem to have had a fun time. So, look, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not. I respect the fact that you.
It's not about us.
You
guys.
two and
about
Jane.
us.
You two
It's
and
not
Jane
about
are not
us.
keen.
Do what you need to do.
Then I'll interview her somewhere else. I'll go to where she is.
Yeah, you'll come out a different man.
You think so? I'll come back like SK.
Next thing you know, you have bees on and you have the
I'll be twice saying as well. Can you imagine?
that would be the day.
Yeah,
That would be the
That's
day.
certainly not going to
Hey,
happen.
listen, in all stages, I hate to always refer stuff to history, but if you don't study history, everything surprises you.
True.
When you do study history, nothing surprises you.
Nothing new under the sun.
So people have been called to the priesthood. People have given offerings to gods. People have been possessed by demons. This stuff has happened throughout human history. There's no
yeah,
period
Yeah.
where it didn't.
yeah.
And for anyone to think that we are past that in some way means you just don't know enough.
Mm.
It's that simple. And I'm genuinely, we spoke about this. I mean, Yaku's eyes were popping out of his head. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. And Jane was talking about how this one woman, this one guy has snakes in the bed
Yeah.
and all
Oh,
kinds of
you-
wacky shit.
Don't you know that? Oh,
I've
no.
heard that.
That's-
We got to get into this properly.
There's
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that
that's
have
what-
rooms in their houses literally for their
Snake.
snake, for their thing that essentially brings them money or brings
Mhm.
them whatever lucks that they want. Like there's so much happening out there
There are girls that have
and guys.
said, and guys actually, that have said
Ah.
that they've had to sleep with a snake.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, hey,
Khwanyiwa.
hey,
How do you
hey.
translate
and
khwanyiwa?
it all came from
How do we-
it all came from a very straightforward question yesterday. I asked Jane, because she was talking about the snakes that she has all over her house in Limpopo, because she's got this, and they live in the roof, and like it's in the rural part of
Sure.
Yeah.
like the village.
Sure.
So there's the river nearby, and the snakes come out, and she's like got this infestation of snakes that she's trying to get rid of. And in Alex, she's got rats,
Mm.
right?
But
And-
that's also Alex's fault
That's-
Let me
because
tell you-
they
Alex,
they killed all the owls that were supposed to get rid of the
yes,
the rats.
that's true. But also,
Yes.
owls are like ominous to some people.
Yes, that's also true.
And so they killed the owls. Now they have rats. But if they'd kept the owls, they wouldn't have the rats. But the rats in Alex are as
Yeah,
big
but
as cats.
owls,
Oh, no.
owls versus rats. What would you rather have, an owl or a rat?
An owl.
An owl.
Owl's not interfering with you.
Owl
What?
any
You see,
time
she's
of
the
the
kind of person-
day.
Do you know what an
See,
owl
she's-
represents?
She's the kind of person
Aaron.
who would. She's the kind of person who'd kill an owl.
No,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't kill it, but I would definitely freaking shoo it away. An owl doesn't just rock up on your wall and then, yay, good luck, or this
Okay,
is
so
a good
you
sign.
are extremely superstitious.
Yeah, no,
about owls.
there's
No,
there's
I just know that owls
represent.
aren't a good sign.
They say owls represent death in the family.
When it comes, they
when-
run, bro.
If an owl lands on your roof, it represents there's going to be
Bad
death
luck
in your
is coming or
family,
death,
right?
yeah.
But as a person who also understands just wildlife,
Hmm.
I know that owls aren't like that. I just know that
To each
owls,
his own.
owls just generally
Owls.
food, like rats are food for owls.
Yeah, and
Yes.
owls.
And-
Trust me, if owls had the ability to know our thoughts and our futures, owls are not interested in what human beings are busy doing. They're being owls.
Oh.
Anyway, I mean, the fact is, Jane asked about these rats in Alex, which are the size of cats.
Yes, I've
They're
seen
huge.
them.
Yeah.
they're
Gundwans,
massive.
right?
They're massive.
Big fucking gundwans.
Yabona,
Huge.
you're saying it right.
They're huge.
Alex don't have rats. They
Yeah.
have gundwans.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
gundwans have
Yeah, well.
teeth. And
Oh, you can't even shoot those out
Bakabantu
of the way.
was saying to me that those ones don't even go tweet, tweet, tweet. You can hear them between the walls. They're so
Only-
big.
only
hectic.
has-
They're very
but
hectic.
loud noise.
Have you know normally, right? If you see a rat and you go, you kind of shush it, it will kind of like scare you away. No,
those
not-
ones don't run.
No.
They
And,
look at you.
and at first I thought, people are over exaggerating
Mm-mm.
this thing. No, my friend once stayed in Alex.
Humlani says, by the way, sorry, Lebang, but
Yeah?
Humlani says you are very easy to scam. You believe everything.
Well, I have been scammed. Yes.
More than
multiple
anyone.
Full time.
More than anyone at Cliff Central, you've been scammed the most.
Probably, and that's fine.
Lebang is an owl outside with a message. for you.
Hey man, you invite an owl into your life and see how it goes for you. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
Yeah. No, like my friend who stayed
Yeah.
in Alex.
Yeah.
So one day I needed to try it out for myself because I thought people were exaggerating. There was like a bunch of rats that just were chilling and eating there. And I literally,
They were having a braai.
yeah, they were basically just chilling, having a like snack.
That's some loud
And,
music.
and I went there and I went,
On a Monday.
bah. I literally went, bah.
They just looked at you.
I just saw like 3 rats go.
What's up? They looked at you.
At that moment, I was like, nope. I was like, no, you know what? I'm good. I kept it moving.
Yeah, you would need to fight them with sticks,
Yeah, no, those ones, I think they just
golf clubs.
it's like Joburg and pigeons. You don't just
Yeah, pigeons and Joburg
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
move.
they
look
look
at you.
kept him.
They
You-
actually walk. If you walk on the sidewalk, they don't get out of your way.
No, no.
yeah,
You have
you
to
must
move.
round. Yeah.
I don't. You see, like you don't like owls. I don't like pigeons.
Oh, pigeons are filthy.
They are.
They literally are the rats of the sky. They are disgusting.
So-
I get you. And then we have
What have we learned? I
we
mean,
have
what an
Simpiwe here.
what an interesting morning. We have some people here. What has this got to do with it?
Simpiwe, there was a bird here in the kitchen one time. She
Oh,
came
she-
running and
she
she's like,
freaked
"There's a
out, yeah,
bird."
yeah.
I'm just like,
See, that is good luck. On the other hand, if a
But
bird,
an owl is a bird.
yeah, no. There's an owl. There's an owl that comes in the middle of the night. Woo, woo, woo. If a bird comes into your house and maybe poos like in the house, it's good luck.
so wait.
Good
Oh,
luck.
so
wait,
the
wait.
owl that does
There's
nothing to
nothing.
you.
It's
Also,
bad
Is a
luck.
bad
the
one.
owl is not
Yeah.
doing nothing, guys. It's
And-
not doing nothing.
Is it because it goes whoo?
That hoo. It's
Yeah,
it's having conversations there, with the people that sent it to your house.
And because the bird that's taking a dump in your house is going chirp.
Tracy says she's got owls in her garden and they're just fine.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like I always say, if you want to sell, if you've got a beautiful big house worth 20 million rand, but they're ghosts, just sell it to me. I'll buy it from you. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
sell
don't
it to an
believe in ghosts.
atheist.
I'll take you.
So
I'll
you'll
take
be
you.
fine.
Yeah.
You'll completely
And there'll
be
be suddenly,
okay.
boom, wow. Oh, look, there are no ghosts anymore. Oh, wow. There's a fucking atheist living there. Okay. So we've learned a lot.
Yeah,
this has
what
been,
an hour.
this has been, I mean, this
This
is
been a
good
crazy
stuff,
hour.
right?
It's-
Because
it's
this
been
is
a
what
lot.
people talk about.
Yeah, it's real life. And if to you it sounds like a whole lot of bullcrap, that is
I
completely
think we need to create
okay. That is
a culture
fine.
shock series.
Yes, culture
Yeah.
shock. That's
Yeah.
a good name for it.
Yeah, create a culture shock series,
Yeah.
and then we just get like Gareth and then everybody else in the world.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm always like shocked by everything. right?
Yeah,
Mm.
And then
then-
yesterday I had like a 45-minute rant about old people.
Mm.
And Bakabantu was just laughing the whole time. He thought it was
Listen, I don't like old people in queues, so I get
in
you.
queues.
Oh, I don't.
Is that the only place you don't like them? I think of a few others.
What's that show on Netflix? I think it's called The Dark Tourist. I freaking love it. And I suggest it to everyone because
What is it?
it's a show about this guy who just goes around to what the world has deemed the most dangerous places to travel to. I think I've mentioned it before. It's called The Dark Tourist. I think they only did 1 or 2 seasons. This guy goes around the world going to the most dangerous places. And you see how people live their lives. And if you think believing in owls being about death and birds shitting in your house is good, like if that's crazy to you, there's cultures out there that Yeah, that's like, yeah, you'll think this is really bizarre. Everybody believes in their own things, and that works for them. Watch Dark Tourist. There's this one episode where he even comes to South Africa. This guy, I think I don't know what he is, but he comes to South Africa and they take him straight to Alex. And he goes, apparently this is the most dangerous place to be a tourist in. And he sits and he's like, this is actually pretty chill. I'm having a good time. I'm chilling with people. I don't feel any danger
Alex
here.
is not that bad.
And then they take him to
Until-
Orania. And he goes, this feels weird.
I
The
know it.
energy here
I
is
know it.
Dark
I know
Tourist.
it. I
It's
know it.
such
I know
a
it.
good show.
Okay,
Yes.
but
And that's just one example. He goes all over the world.
But to go back, Goon, who I think is short for Gondwan, says, I went to Alex once. The rats gallop like horses.
Yeah, correct.
Dusty Nose says, I don't get why grown men are scared of rodents. Simps everywhere.
How is being scared of a rodent as simp?
Well,
Like I thought simp is
I mean, you
is
should be able to
something totally
you
different.
should be able to fight a rodent.
You should.
Zita says, here in Cambodia, you keep your dog hidden in your house. If you forget it outside, chances are you'll be having it for breakfast.
That is super interesting.
Mhm.
That is interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people believe
Yeah?
that. We're not going to
Mhm.
call it bullshit, though.
Yeah, you'll be having it for breakfast.
That is- yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
those rats cast a big shadow, says Azalia.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Eh? Mm-mm.
Yeah, Alex is not dangerous, but Orania is, says Darren.
Do you see? You know,
But in Alex, he was escorted by the locals, so he has watched the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. If you have local knowledge, if you have someone around there
Yeah.
who knows. I mean,
Basically,
anyway.
Just watch the show. Just
please.
watch it. Yeah.
yeah, people say that town is dangerous, and it is at certain times and in certain places.
yes.
Mm.
But if you
Yes.
come into Santon at like 10 o'clock at night, there are just as many things that could go
Go
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Like
I don't
Alex-
believe like geography. Look, you don't want to be in Hillbrow at 2 a.m.
You hardly
On a
want to be in
Saturday.
Hillbrow at any time.
Okay, but now you guys are doing the
Yes.
same thing, right? Because there are people who live in
Yeah,
Hillbrow.
they
do.
That's their whole life. Jane lives in Alex. She doesn't think it's the most
Mm.
dangerous, but then she told us just the other day about some horrible shit that
Yeah,
happened
some
there.
shooting.
So you can't cherry pick this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
Time and place.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Town is dangerous because the streets blow up. Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And no one could have foreseen there was no owl hooting over that street before.
No warning, nothing.
No warning.
Jeez, Sangomas.
Nothing. There was zero.
Jeez.
All right. Well, we haven't even got to any news. It's 7 o'clock
Oh,
already. Look at
dude.
how busy we've been.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've got a guest coming in after 7 who I think you're going to like to hear from. She is well known as the editor at large of the Sunday Times Lifestyle. She's worked at the Times, Marie Claire, Elle. She writes 2 weekly columns in the Sunday Times. She also loves yoga and singing, and we've had her on the show before. She is none other than Aspasia Karras, who's going to be joining us. She's great. We love talking to Aspasia. So she'll be our guest in the next little bit. And if you didn't get enough of Gomolemo Aaron, because he calls himself
Double
both,
A, fully
right,
charged.
calls himself both,
Yeah.
then we'll have to get him back on the show sometime. All right. Lukosi just says, as a final thought on this, I wouldn't recommend Hillbrow as a non-Hillbrow resident at
Yes.
any time.
Yes.
Okay.
I was in a taxi and they took somebody's phone out the taxi from outside.
But
So,
that happens in Ilovo.
I will. So
All right. There we are. 7 o'clock.
Essentially, a managed service provider is a business that pretty much empowers a company to be able to do what they need to do. So we look after the technology side of things. So pretty much looking after everything for the business. So to give you an idea, looking after the workstation support, the infrastructure management, then moving into the connectivity side of things, making sure that the connectivity is intact, looking after the security aspect. So it's pretty much encompassing, all of those services and putting them under one umbrella and having one central company to work with that has your best interests at heart and that makes sure that your business is running as efficiently as possible.
I'm Jaco Voigt, the CEO of Catalytic, and this is Unbundled. In this series, I help to demystify technology in the world of business. Join me as we explore how technology can make your business better. In this episode, we're chatting about managed service providers, or MSP for short. We're chatting about what a MSP is, why a business would use a MSP, and how to avoid common mistakes when choosing the right MSP for your business.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
In Cape Town this past weekend, and I saw an R8 with the top down, and it looked really nice. I won't lie, but for me, I don't know. I've never been into like.
Yeah, I always wonder with smash and grabs and
in South Africa,
in South Africa hijacking.
Convertible,
you probably stop at a traffic light and you suddenly got a passenger.
Guys just jumps in. He's
where
like,
are we
drive.
going?
I got a getaway driver. When you hijack with the hijacker.
No, not even a getaway. It's just somebody catching a lift. Jumps in the car. And
I wonder if that's happened before. I wonder what the rates of people getting.
You've seen Bucky stop at a traffic light, right?
Yep.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
It is Wednesday morning on cliffcentral.com. It's just 6 minutes after 7. We've got a lot of stuff happening. We've still got to try and fit some news into something somewhere, but we could get to that when we get to it. Lebang is here with me, and we are joined by Aspasia Karras, who I mentioned just before the break is also someone well known to our audience before. I mean, you've been here before as a guest. We know you well, but you've also been the editor-at-large for the Sunday Times Lifestyle
And Sunday
Elle,
Times.
Elle Magazine,
Very cool.
Marie Claire, the Times itself, and also then your columns, which are regulars.
Yeah.
You're a very accomplished woman. You really are, and you
Well,
keep
thank you.
keep churning out good stuff.
And I had an old relationship with you guys. We remember we used to
You
do
had your own show.
Yeah,
Oh.
with my Bali.
Yeah, that's right. Aspasia had
It's a
her own show
reunion.
for a long
It's
time.
a reunion, guys.
So
cool.
we know you well, and it's nice to see you again.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I thought I'm gonna get up and come.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's always better to do it in studio, and
Yeah.
it's horrible to wake up early. But I said to Simpiwe and Gomolemo earlier this morning, having sat in traffic last week, one of the days when I didn't do the show from here, it's not worth it. I'd rather wake up at 4:30 and be here early and not have to deal with traffic, because sitting in an hour and a half of traffic is horrible. It's soul destroying.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's really awful. So that is something that you could avoid by just being up earlier. And plus, when you start your day ahead of everyone else, you
Well, you guys finish are first. experts at the. By 1 o'clock, you've done Early everything. starting. You've done all your meetings. Your days, you still have all that leftover time.
so
But it's
Aspasia.
what time you go to bed? The
No,
question.
no, that's the problem. So
Yeah.
you do yoga,
Mm.
right? And this is a big part of, everybody has their things in their day that makes it better
Yoga and boxing.
and bearable. So
Oh,
you're doing boxing
is
as well.
So cool. I love boxing.
really good.
Yeah. And lately I've combined, I first do the boxing and then I teach the boxers yoga.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that's interesting.
you're teacher and student.
Yes.
All right. So all of this stuff makes, life a little bit more colorful and interesting. I mean, I try to go to gym 3-4 times a week because I think it's really important to have things where you look after you.
Yeah. The ancient Greeks said healthy mind, healthy body.
Right.
And I do believe that.
Yeah, I think that people who only have one of those aren't well balanced. They're probably going to be unhappy. How do you feed your mind? You read?
A lot.
Yeah.
But you have to. I mean,
Yeah,
you know how
sure,
it is.
sure.
So especially if you're writing
Columns and
columns
such. Yeah,
every
of course,
week.
Of course.
If you don't read, where are you getting your ideas and source material from, and also expanding your own knowledge, right? Because you can't just sit there and think you already know all the answers. I'll just churn out a column based on stuff I already know. You have to keep improving so you can give other people something to think about.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. But I mean, it is part of my.
It's not a problem; it's a solution.
But it is So I read a lot. I'm subscribed to, from the New York Times, the Guardian, the Atlantic, the
Those are
London
all
Review of
all
Books.
very left-wing publications.
Yeah, and then obviously you have to read the Daily Fail every day.
That's a daily fail.
It's what I call the Daily Mail,
Oh,
just to keep yourself balanced.
okay. Well,
It's balance.
clearly you're not biased at all with your Atlantic and Guardian and
No.
New York
That's
Times.
why I read the Daily
The
Fail.
Daily Fail.
Yeah, 1 against 3.
I mean, have you read the Daily Fail lately?
No,
It's enough to
so
sort of. That is.
I'm-
It's strong enough. It's powerful enough as content to just sort of
I sort of admire
balance everything out.
I admire the fact that you're still clinging to those old rusty publications
Sure.
of traditional media. No,
Welcome to the
and
Gareth.
I know you're still involved. No, but this
What
is
do
why.
you read?
No, hang on. This is why you. I'll tell you what I read in a minute.
Mm.
But this is why you are still one of the people who can do what you do in publishing, right? I think that it's changed a lot. There are so few young people who care about these titles that you've just mentioned, and whether that's good or bad, you can perhaps tell me what you think. I just feel people have moved right on from them, and we know that they're struggling. I mean, magazines which you used to edit as well, powerful magazines. They used to be so influential. One snap of Aspasia's fingers and she could raise hemlines so high the world was your gynecologist. There was a time.
Very much
Yeah.
doubt.
But I mean, women all over the world used to take some of these magazines,
Yeah.
and they were gospel. And that's changed completely
I
now.
think it has changed, but I do think that something like, I was listening to an interview with the New York Times is owned by a family. So from the old rusty publications, David Remnick, who is the editor of the New Yorker magazine, does a podcast every week. And he was interviewing Salzburg, who is the owner of the New York Times. And that is a publication that it used to be, let's say, quite limited to a New York American kind of context. Huge. But the paper of record essentially for one small community. And it became, under his digital vision, a global force. People like so it became the model that everyone wants to follow. And it is a huge, huge reading public that reads it every day. It became the paper of record, certainly for the left, but on a global scale for everyone.
And used to be certainly one of the most credible sources of information in the world.
But still is, because sometimes when you read something like X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, how do you know what you're actually reading, where it comes from, what there's individual. So, I mean, I'm not arguing against those things. I'm just simply saying, how do you know at this point if anything you're reading hasn't been generated? I mean, Rupert Murdoch's, all his sort of local publications in Australia are actually run by AI, and one solitary sad person sitting behind a desk going, okay, I'm editing this. How?
But
so how do you even know that the AI is generating completely lovely, but generates, stuff that is entirely untrue or manipulated or whatever.
This is why I'm fascinated to have you here, because you've actually experienced the best of both. Like you got to see, I think, maybe you're also too young to have been there in that kind of the heyday
when
they
sent you to Paris every year.
Yeah, where Anna Wintour was the god of all.
She still is. Last night I was judging the SS Style Awards, which is still a thing 20 odd years later, with Johan Kutsia, and he said he was, in New York at something and having lunch with Anna Wintour.
Oh wow.
And the thing with Anna Wintour, he said, was that he doesn't believe that bob of hair is real. He was like, it's
a wig.
A wig. I was like, I've seen her.
It's too perfect.
She has a blow dry every morning, guys.
Well, I mean, I do think those days are kind of over, though. I mean, I saw she's now giving some masterclass that you can buy for $30 or something on the internet. And I thought, it's a bit of a step down.
You're not a subscriber to masterclass.
No, but I think it's a step down. I think it's like a little bit. She was too big a deal. That mystery around her was part of the allure, don't you think? And now publishing has been kind of exposed for what it really was, which was these kind of insular, sort of inward looking, many of them.
Definitely.
Right? And it was like a coterie of people who were all talking to each other about the things that they thought were interesting. And of course, that's what happened in publishing. You had fishing magazines. You had magazines about, stamp collecting. It used to be a massive, massive thing. It just kept expanding in all directions.
Well, I think it's now all moved just basically
online.
But where you might have like chanced upon a broader perspective because everyone read, say, the Sunday Times, my very own organ,
Yeah.
which, although I'm pleasantly surprised every week, I see people like unexpected people say, "Oh, I read your column every week," which I find fascinating. I really do. But more interestingly enough, I think there was a common
We used to do
resource.
stuff. We used to do stuff together.
Yes,
We don't do
as
stuff
a
together anymore.
society, and I think all societies. So South Africans would watch. Everyone would watch, like on Sunday night, Carte Blanche or Heart
Yeah,
Would
but
Sink.
I'd have
That
to do
music
without
would
that,
come
hey?
on,
I
of
could-
course. But it was the Sunday night, like sadness
Yeah.
that just lays a pall upon you. But you had a common narrative which generates and fosters some kind of, whether it was the right narrative or the wrong narrative. I
Yeah,
think
you
what has
see-
happened is that it's become so insular and everyone is down their own little rabbit hole.
No, I think now, I mean, you can find anything you want now.
You can, but what you're finding and the way the algorithm works is that it will feed you what you want to find.
Yeah, but you also have to curate that stuff. Like you said, you read 3 left publications, 1 right, and you said you have to do that to keep yourself balanced. But it's up to you to decide that. Whereas before it was up to an editor to decide what was going to be put in the only publication that anyone read. Or it's like TV channels. We used to have 3. Remember back in those days?
Now there's 300.
But
Only
I
3.
mean, what is interesting is, yes, you're curating it, but I do think that not having this notion, the paper of record, or having a common experience
there's a bit of
of
a
news
there's a
or
bit of
experience.
superiority complex.
No,
because you're saying, oh no, well, ordinary people can't choose for themselves.
No, of course,
Better than
ordinary people can. Everyone is an ordinary person. There is no such argument. I'm making a slightly different point, which is that once you get caught up in your own narrative thing, the memes you served, the things you experience, it's not
absolutely true.
It's not everyone's thing. And where it becomes problematic in the sense of, say, a nation state. So here we are, we're South Africa. We're trying to actually gel with a new set of ideas, a coherent civil society that actually speaks and is directed in one way.
It's much harder to corral.
We can't
people.
do that.
Yeah.
It's not even corral. It's not against freedom of speech or anything. It's just that narrative fragments and your own narrative becomes the dominant one. And it's much harder to get people out of negative ideas. You can end up with in these lagers.
But they always
a lager mentality.
Okay, but Aspasia, we know, like the crazy conspiracy theory people always had their papers of record too. The National Enquirer used to publish weekly about things with 8 heads and aliens.
And it transpires that actually we should have been listening to them because now the Congress is having a UFO seating.
Interesting times indeed.
The UFOs were really coming for us.
Yeah.
All right, so
those conspiracists were onto something.
I promise you I didn't bring you here to
right this whole time.
I didn't bring you here to defend
no,
print
God,
media.
I'm not defending print media in any way.
But I do think the internet allows us to access things that we might never have seen or heard before.
Yeah.
And if people are incurious, which, I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of people who are just not particularly excited about stuff. They sit and consume the same old shit that the algorithm serves them.
Yeah.
There are lots of people like that. Bless them. They'll also watch the same Marvel movie told 15 times in exactly the same way with a different title, and they'll think it's entertainment.
Yeah.
We can't help everybody. They won't read a book that's longer than that because it's so much effort, and they won't listen to a podcast that's more than 45 minutes because, that's a lot to listen to.
There's definitely like pros and cons to how this has changed. But the biggest con I'm seeing is that everybody thinks they're a journalist now. Everybody feels so entitled to their opinion. And because everybody has access to this information, we just kind of get like the bare minimum of this fact. And then we say, I've got enough to go on and do a whole thing about it. And I'm going to tell everybody this one little piece of this bigger story. And we're all on the same platform. And again, to your point, is it all fake news? Nobody's really getting credible sources anymore. Are we doing the 3 credible sources check? No. The first tweet we see, we believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, just what this is making me think of is I was listening to this chap, the Huberman.
Andrew Huberman.
And he started a
I don't know
thing-
what to make of him.
Well, I mean, whatever you make of him, what was more interesting for me, just apropos what we're talking about, like credible checking of sources, he started doing this thing where they take academic papers and talk through them. So because you get, like, I am guilty of this. I will receive like a high level, like, you know, there are lots of academic institutions that will send you their papers and say, this is the result that we've had. And then you go, oh, okay, so all people who are left-handed have
two
a
IQ
bias
points higher or
to
whatever, yeah.
And actually, because you don't have the rigor, a scientific practice,
Or frankly, the time you
to
have to know.
wade through that thing. So what I was listening
You
to
grab
was
the
they
headline.
had, yes, you grab the headline and you run with it. And it's so that is what you see a lot of. So, and the journalists are guilty of it. I mean, you see a lot of places that are just publishing press releases. But what was fascinating is, so I don't know if you've heard about, like, for years, like, people were saying, no, the people interested in aging, which is the billionaire's primal compulsions to live forever. And so there's a lot of money going into anti-aging medicine or whatever they call it, gerontology. Very, very fascinated with that stuff. And so for years, people have been saying, no, you must take metformin. Metformin is like a diabetic drug. You know, at the moment we have like all these diabetic drugs.
Yeah, Ozempic.
Ozempic, but before Ozempic was metformin, which was meant to kind of keep you young for longer without having to do the exercise that we were talking about. No, but I went down reading about the metformin path and I was like, for sure, metformin, like David Sinclair, who runs the Harvard anti-aging thing, is on industrial doses of metformin. Anyway, they analyze the metformin paper, the most recent paper, and you see how they're analyzing it, and they do it from a scientific, these guys are from Stanford, so now they're like looking at the metformin.
Actually, discuss it and have to
do it the way. Yeah, apparently this is what they do at medical school. They used to have these like sort of things. They'd sit down and talk through the papers that get published in Science and whatever, and literally analyze them.
And almost like a debate, you have one person taking up one side of the argument, for example,
or just look at the statistics and what they're actually saying to you. And it transpires that metformin, like, and this is why these oaks stopped taking metformin about 4 years ago.
Was it poisonous?
Well, it transpires that even diabetics on metformin, on this like sort of double bind test, whatever. My point being, is not actually making such a radical difference, may actually be harmful. So you're like going, I have been reading X.
Nonsense.
At a certain level, people are taking medicine away from diabetics who actually do need it in order to live forever. And it's actually nonsense.
What do you
it's
think?
Presented in a scientific way. And I just know, even from myself, as a person who is not a scientist, but is interested in reading the facts, I completely had bought this metformin thing for a long time. I know people on it who go, oh, I'm not going to gym 5 times a week. I'm just going to
take this
metformin.
So what do you think of people who take this Ozempic? Because that's also very controversial. So that we still don't know, and even the best scientists, always the best scientists will say they don't know, but these guys say they're not sure of what the ultimate long-term consequences of something like this might be on the renal system with the kidneys and all the rest, because that's obviously where a lot of this, and the pancreas obviously comes into it too. And it's helping people to lose weight, but they get this stuff out of like poisonous lizards.
Yeah, it's the Gila monster.
The Gila monster. And have you seen what these things look like? And they're deadly, deadly poisonous. They get this out of these monsters. It's called a monster. It's its actual name. And then these people inject themselves with this. And Ozempic's expensive, apparently.
It's very expensive. It's created a shortage it is a diabetic medicine. But I think...
What do you think of this? People doing this, they're falling into this trend. And now you have celebrities and rich people all over the world. And they're all doing Ozempic and then eating whatever they want.
It's the
and
fountain of youth.
They're staying thin.
Well, it was quite fascinating to me because this guy, one of these guys on this Huberman the guy they were analyzing the thing was like, and when I took metformin, I ate 12 donuts, and I was like, it's so very weird. I was like, really? So actually, you just want to eat like shit. You want to put
that's
a
it.
plaster
That's what it
on
sounds
top
like.
of your thing and find a shortcut. Which I'm not saying that
It's like
this
people
is
who
not bad,
They want
and
to
it might very
have
well
sex with
be-
everybody and then take AZT.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it may be like a very brilliant way of actually, because we do have an obesity epidemic in the world.
Yeah.
And instead of actually addressing, like this is my deep feeling about this.
Go on.
Instead of addressing like the sort of industrial complex that creates cheap food with lots of sugar additives, like
Go lay it down, because how about personal responsibility,
also
not just
personal responsibility, but I
snacking like a
think
pig
before-
24/7.
Well, I think there's a step before that, which is
Mhm.
that people want cheap food. So
We want quick,
people
affordable
want
food.
quick, cheap food, which they really do. And if you look at what the ingredients in the quick, cheap food is, so bear with me.
Yeah.
The quick, cheap food is quick and cheap because it's highly processed
Yeah.
and it's highly
Of course.
infused with sugar. So if you buy a loaf of white bread, which frankly is something that people buy because it is a staple thing, and you're a guy who's working on a long job, you're like, I was in the hospital the other day. The nurse, for example, is on a 12-hour shift. That is
Yeah.
a long,
Yeah.
hell of a long day.
A
They don't have
construction
time.
worker or whatever.
Whatever. They don't have time to go out and like construct a meal from. Also, it's much more expensive to buy healthy food than to buy cheap food. So what you've got is a system that creates lots of very
Convenience.
cheap, processed, fast food, polony, whatever. That stuff is infused with sugar. It goes straight to, it makes you fat. That's why we have a huge population problem with obesity, because people the world over are buying, and those companies
Don't have a
are
lot.
running, they
I would agree with-
advertise
I would
cheap
agree with
food.
you, but
Yeah.
there
On the
are
other
not.
hand, you're saying, okay, now this is
Hold
the
on.
great solution. We're going to give all these
No, but-
people that we're giving this cheap food this pill. So
There
they're
seems to-
working towards making Ozempic
So
or whatever it is.
Ozempic's never going to get to these people anyway because it's too
but
expensive.
in the long term,
No,
in
it
the
won't.
long term, these
So
are ideas
if
that
you
are
were
in the
if
market.
you were right, China would be just chock full of fat people, and they're not.
China doesn't eat like that.
Right.
China eats
Boom.
traditionally.
Boom. But that's the point. So if even poor people in China, not big and obese.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry.
but let me just say they're
TikTok.
not. But there is, in fact, if you do look at the statistics, even in China, they are suffering with like sort of big obesity in small children, which is a function of a changing diet, which is changing.
I agree with you that there's a problem here, but
So that
there's-
is my bottom line.
yeah,
Is that I think that what is
Yeah.
happening
There
in our
seems-
society is we're happy
there seems
instead
to
of
be
addressing the issue and saying how do we make people eat
there-
healthier.
There seems to be though. No, but make people eat healthier. What, like government's going to come and tell you what to eat? Like they told us to wear masks.
Government can make a very big
What
impact.
Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma when she was in
No.
charge of the country?
I think what governments can do is say, actually, big industrial manufacturer of cheap food for our people.
You mean
which
like
we
the
appreciate.
like the company
You have to
McDonald's that
take-
our president used to be invested
Yes.
in?
Take down the
We're gonna
sugar
trust him.
percentage in your food. That is what you can do, and it can make a much bigger
You know what they'll
difference.
do?
Apparently,
They'll just eat more.
They just sadly
No.
they just don't.
They're craving
care.
the sugar because they
but
have no
it can,
self-control.
that is
Here's
what a
the problem.
government can
Like,
do: is
either we-
moderate that kind of thing,
Aspasia, either we
which they have a duty of care to their people.
either we
Yeah,
find
but they
the
don't care.
locus of control internally or we find it externally. I find, and I don't disagree with you about all of these things, but the people who are running these fast food joints, why should they give a shit about your health? They're trying to sell burgers.
Yeah.
So their only
Interestingly
purpose.
enough, even McDonald's, which is obviously a gigantic multinational with an interest in making you eat more, hence giving you more sugar. did in fact cut down the sugar in their salad dressings and in their
Please, who buys a McDonald's salad?
well,
Who in
but
the
whatever.
world?
My
They
point
probably
is
sell
that
5 of those a year.
They did in fact make an effort to cut it down.
Didn't
Listen,
they get like sued?
but don't we? No. Here's the thing at the center of all of this is like, do we let people take responsibility for themselves, whether it's in media consumption, food consumption, whatever kind of consumption, or do we let government set those terms for us? Because we've realized, everyone on earth must have realized post-COVID, to trust the government to come up with the solutions is the very worst thing you can do.
I think it's a bit of
Well,
both.
I mean, it's not even post-COVID. We're sitting
We're in
6 hours of load shedding, we're whatever.
Yeah.
So we
We
know that we
paid-
can't trust these
yeah.
people to make the decisions. So the best possible solution is to let people decide for themselves.
Save yourself. No one's gonna save you.
But I do have some kind of concern that the idea that government, I mean, we have governments and we, the people, should be moderating what they do. So there is a level and a degree where you have to be engaged in civil society. So the more
There, I
we
agree with you completely.
isolate ourselves and say, well, you know, the government is on its own trajectory. I give up. I'll look after my own little backyard. You still need to be conscious of the fact that, like, the government may be enabling shit
Of course they are.
that is
100%.
unhealthy for
They
you.
definitely are.
So, civil society, which is engaged in some kind of conscious dialogue with government, I think is the ultimate way forward. Otherwise, we may as well give up and say, well, it doesn't matter. Like, okay,
So
we
what
have
do you-
Putin. And then here is the example, because this is where the logical result of some of this thinking is. If you say, well, I can only look after myself
Yeah.
in any context, and, you know, great, we like enable a chap like Putin because autocracy has become a much bigger thing. And autocracy is like a kind of natural thing that happens in societies where
It's- you
people
could-
lose
Yeah.
faith.
You could say
In the
autocracy.
government.
You could say autocracy is the default setting. In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
the
So
number
he
of
then gets-
democracies in history is hugely outweighed by the number of autocracies.
So what happens is that you then at the mercy and at the will of one oak who suddenly gets it in his mind that he wants to like sort of reestablish the greater Russia, and this is his great
And look what we've got.
hope
Yeah.
and glory, and he's martial, like, I mean, you know, having meetings with Kim
Kim Jong-un.
Jong-un.
whatever, Jong-un, Kim Jong-il,
Yeah.
whichever one it is.
It's
you
one
know.
of them.
Yeah,
The
they're
Jongs.
just like the Jongs.
Jong-un.
Did you see the interior of his train? How lovely
He's
was
got
that?
he's got a green armored train.
And inside all the seats are pink. I just love the stuff. It's
But-
bubblegum pink. It's
so-
really cute.
You
But
would
I'm
you would
like,
appreciate
so
this.
here
I
are
got
these-
a book once as a gift from somebody. It's called Dictator Chic. Or something.
Yes, I've seen that
Have you
book. I
seen it?
love it.
It's like it shows you inside the houses of all these like Mobutu Sese Seko,
Yeah.
Hitler, Mussolini. Who was the guy?
Dictator chic is
Who's
one
the guy
of my
in Romania?
favorite
Ceausescu.
elements, yes.
Ceausescu.
elements of my what the fuck column. Because I'm like, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
They just hand it to you on a little
Dictators
plate.
have the worst taste for some reason.
Because they can like indulge like all
Yeah.
their sensibilities.
So
Putin has an aqua discoteca. Do you know about that?
what's that?
I mean, come, Gareth.
Aqua
Discoteca.
discoteca.
Sounds
So,
like
It is a
he does
subterranean discotheque.
party.
It's that like sort of
In the
thing
water.
in Sochi. No, you know how in Sochi has like this palace,
He has a
which
huge
is
palace, yeah.
the size of, I don't know, a small town. So this palace has the most marvelous thing called the Aqua Discoteca. It is a subterranean
club.
discotheque. Above him float the mermaids, and he gets to dance.
It's I got to tell you, this
Oh.
Putin lifestyle is starting to appeal to
I
me.
just like the Putin lifestyle.
It's the mermaids that got
I
you.
need to ask you too about something that is going on though, and you're pretty good at like identifying trends and figuring out what people are interested in. I mean, you have to; it's part of your job almost. Vaping. Can we just talk about this for a second?
Ugh.
Because it seems like it's just going on, and people are okay. Now, again, I'm not one of these people who interferes. I'm never going to tell someone not to vape,
Sure.
but the kids are doing it.
Yeah.
A
And
lot.
they're doing it at ever younger ages.
Yeah.
And the stuff is socially way more acceptable than cigarettes because it doesn't smell like a cigarette.
Yeah.
Doesn't make your clothes smell like cigarettes. Most people don't mind if
It's just a
someone's vaping.
nicotine addiction.
It's wild though. Have
It
you
is.
seen how I think there are more people vaping now than ever were smoking.
I mean,
No,
it's-
100%.
And
And
also, it's the way you vape because
Yeah.
you can vape at all times.
everywhere you go,
Right.
anywhere you go, indoor, outdoor.
I saw some grown man the other day in a lift. Okay, this is a adult man with his in a lift.
Yeah, it's
And then he
it's-
sort of blows the
it's
smoke to
old-fashioned.
the side of his mouth so that it doesn't make that much smoke. But as soon as he gets out, then there are clouds of this stuff.
And vaping's also another thing where they haven't really figured out what the actual consequences are. There's
Right.
no facts. There's no. We've done
Can't be
tests.
good putting all those chemicals because
can't.
it's a chemical
It's a chemical.
thing that's
It's
happening.
not. They have
100% is.
discovered, they've done some. I mean, I know I said something about the research papers before, but there is
Yeah.
some research that shows that it's bad for your lungs.
Yeah,
You
that's
get
not going to stop
popcorn lung.
anybody.
Yes.
Ugh.
Have you,
But
you know
I
what
think
popcorn
it's
lung
like-
is?
Ugh, doesn't sound tasty.
You know that sound when if you've ever been around someone who's got like emphysema and when they breathe and it goes bubble bubble bubble
my
in
God.
their lungs. It's a horrible thing.
So I feel, well, there is a trend where a government intervention would actually be quite useful because I think smoking is an example of a government intervention globally, in point of fact, where, to some extent, they managed to curtail the proliferation of just aggressive marketing around smoking, which took
Mhm.
and they made it more difficult for
Sure.
people to actually, because there is something where you have to say, okay, you have to this is why you've chosen a government, so that they can look into your health outcome and say it's not good for our population to all be dying of lung cancer at the age of 45.
You certainly want them taking mercury out of the food chain and that
You
kind
want
of thing.
them monitoring the water into the whatever.
I'm with
yes.
you.
So I think that
Everything's
vaping is an
everything's a
example,
trade-off.
because
Everything's a trade-off.
vaping is just the cigarette companies finding a new route to market.
Yeah.
And
it's
what do you
like a little
think-
hubbly.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the of
That
It's
the
a
you take
portable
with you
hubbly that you take everywhere.
people making those too? What do you think
So
of
making vaping, maybe they just have to vape outside the office in the pavement,
Yeah.
will just already diminish. And it's like by small percentages, because popcorn lung will come to bite you
Yeah.
at some
sounds,
point.
sounds so horrible.
It
Popcorn.
really does.
So what do you guys think
It's like
about
the black lung.
it's terrible. What do you think of do you think the legalization of weed has been a net good or net bad? We're only a couple of years in. People can smoke weed, they can buy small amounts. Do you
I
think it's
think
been a good thing?
There is a lot of research that says anybody under 25 smoking weed, it's very bad because your brain has not actually solidified. So I think there's another case of like weed. There's a very strong lobby
Yeah.
that got its way. But I think there's two things with weed that I always just say. Firstly, it's like the land of the lotus eaters. You smoke weed, and if you have a particular approach to life, or whatever, your personality is slightly like sort of lax, you will end up like I had this friend who was a big, like smoked weed like a cigarette, and you'd arrive at his house and he'd say, "Look at all the progress I've made." Hey? Like he was self-renovating the house, and it was like this
DIY.
is a year later,
And nothing
you
had
have
happened.
managed to like paint a wall. Lots of progress. It's amazing. It's amazing because like weed, there was nothing else. It was just like a year went by and he had managed to paint a whole grown ass wall. And then if you're under 25, your brain hasn't settled.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and there's a lot of like sort of relationship between smoking lots of weed as a young person and psychosis, psychotic breaks. Like all the institutions are like littered
Mm.
with youthful weed smokers who like lost the plot.
And this
So I don't know.
explosion of depression and anxiety has a lot to do with not just weed, but I would say a sense of kind of hopelessness and purposelessness among young people in the world today. They're like, I don't know how I'm going to make a difference, so it makes me anxious.
So I'm going to smoke some weed.
I'll smoke some weed,
and
which will
then I'm
make
going to
me
tamp my brain down.
right.
And then I don't know, not everyone knows the psychiatric history of their families. So if you have, you just don't. Like but in every family there was like Batty Aunt Georgia who had, taken up with the cats or whatever. I'm just like, don't just go into it.
Just because it works for your friend doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah, don't go into it with complete ignorance because. But yeah, I do think it's.
So
but it's also just a gigantic market.
So what sorts of things are you picking up on that people are doing, good or bad? Good habits, bad habits. We talked about yoga earlier. It talked about boxing. That's a thing. And I mean, you wouldn't have found a woman in boxing 20 years ago. You'd have to have searched high and low, right?
Yeah,
Now it's a thing.
Boxing is a thing. Yeah,
it's a thing now. So a lot of people seem to be doing these cold plunges. That's all that anyone's
Cape Town.
talking about.
Have you been to Cape Town lately? I think it's quite funny. So I went off to the
Cape Town is special.
to Saunders Rock and all those pools where people are having their cold water plunge. But they sit. So it's like actually hysterical. They sit in the plunge for minutes. I'm like, why don't you? It's fucking cold. Why don't you swim? Sorry to swear.
No, go ahead. You're allowed here.
Have a little, whilst you're taking your cold water plunge, I'm not entirely opposed to this, but they sit like beached whales in the water. Like this.
50 seconds.
Like with their little heads above water going, great, eh? Great. I love this. That's great, eh? And then across on the wall, they have this wall. So then they all come out. It's called the Wailing Wall because the sun hits it. So they come out and stand on the Wailing Wall and thaw. And this friend of mine said, I'm going to pick you up because all the hotties are at this pool. So she picked me up from the hot yoga directly
So you
to
went
the
straight
cold
to
plunge.
cold plunge after hot yoga. That must have been quite good.
I was in it. I was very Swedish about this. Very
Yes.
Norwegian, very
Yeah,
Finnish.
That's what they do.
I was very hot. And then
They go straight from the sauna into the ice.
exactly. So off I go into the Atlantic seaboard ice. And there's two people. One who has clearly blown his brains on too much dope.
Sounds like Cape Town.
And the second one is like a chap with like some injuries on his face. And he's like scratching.
What?
Like, gosh, I said, you've clearly injured yourself. Yeah, he said it's self-inflicted. So I was like, what? You fell off your mountain bike on the, running on the pipe path? This is what they do in Cape Town. No, he said self-inflicted. I was like, and you're getting into this like little pool next to us to sit for 10 minutes.
With your injuries.
I said, this is
What-
not
what does he
all
mean?
you
What does
promised.
What's self-inflicted?
Does it
I said to my friend, this is not all you promised about the hot men in
Okay,
Cape Town.
But did
That
the
sounds
guy
dodge.
did the guy like hit himself?
like-
Yeah, I think he was a skin picker
Oh, sis.
with a lot of anxiety.
That's
So
disgusting.
That was my experience of the
a
cold
skin
plunging.
picker.
Yes, sis.
Ugh.
It was quite divine. I was like,
Yeah, you didn't
Wow,
sign up
guys,
for that. Did
wow.
not
And you
sign
saw
up for
no
that.
Cape Town.
hotties.
I saw no hotties, but I saw a lot of people just sitting, looking completely baleful in this water at each other. I was like, just swim a little up and down.
What
this
are we
thing.
all doing?
It will make you feel better.
She's right though. Like your friend is right. Like Cape Townians do these weird rituals now,
Yeah.
and they've taken on new ones. And I mean,
There
not
are
just
lots of
Cape,
Gautengers there.
that's not just Cape
They've
Townians.
moved down
Right now,
in tribes.
Cape Town's like living in its own little bubble. It's like
Well,
a little island.
But
there.
a lot of
it
Joburgers
used to
have
be.
moved there.
Yeah.
We've opened their horizons a little bit. I mean, Cape Townians never met Joburg people, only in December, really.
Yeah. Once a
Before
year.
now, they're living there. I feel like
It's very, very, very friendly down at that rock, let me tell you. All the people are chatting. I was like, these
That's
That's
not
not
very
Cape
Cape
Town.
Townian.
No. Speaking to each other, it's a little community. I was like, these people are all from Joburg.
Yeah.
And they have taken up cold water swimming
so. I think almost. You know how people are
and
recording.
skin picking.
You know how people are recording
thing.
like the Khoisan languages because they're different languages. They're recording them to try and keep a record of them because they're
Preserve
dying
them.
out.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
I think Cape Town, the way we used to talk about it for the last 20 or 30 years, as an idea, is not going to last very long because there's so many people from Joburg going in there. They're changing the culture
Yeah.
of Cape Town, and those very
Insular.
insular Cape Townians are going to
Culty
change. They're going to
pockets.
have to adapt.
Yeah.
Because, Cape Town has to adapt to Joburg, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Joburg people aren't going to go there and become Cape Townian.
Not a chance.
So I'm sorry, Cape Town, but you're going to lose your culture and your clickiness. You're going to have to.
I think it's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
Good. That's the only thing Cape Town needs. It's that like sense
An
of
infusion
community,
of
like
Joburgers.
yeah, like just like a bit of a more social environment.
It might spoil it.
That's not clicky.
It might spoil it.
I think it spoiled it already for people because have you seen the traffic in Cape Town?
So what's the solution? Do they want to all
And
run
have you
off?
seen the prices, the property prices? Because everyone in Joburg goes, all I'm looking for is just a little apartment in Sea Point with sea
You're
view.
like, well, you'll have to have 5 houses
and
that you can
3
sell here.
bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
And so that's what anyone is looking for. So the whole place is, just there's a lot of pressure on Cape Town right now.
Well,
no wonder they're cold water
I-
swimming and
I-
picking their skin.
Adapt or die.
And I'll tell you what,
Cape
there's going to
Town.
be a bit of a reactive thing that happens there too, where a lot of Cape Townians will start getting a bit more than slightly pissed off with the Joburg people because they only had to deal with us for mostly 1 month of the year, and now we're changing their culture, we're forcing them to acclimatize to us, that sort of thing, taking up space in their
Actually
neighborhoods,
hosting brides
hosting-
because Cape
doing things.
Cape Townians
They don't do that,
are like notoriously bad. Like, they'll say, we must do something.
and then you never see them.
Then you never see them again. But Joburgers will actually host the bride. I don't know
Yeah.
how they're going to actually cope with such.
So, I mean, the good news, obviously, is with the cold plunging, you don't even really have to have a cold plunge bath or anything because you won't have electricity to warm your water anyway. So we all have to take a
It's a
cold plunge.
win-win.
Yeah, cold shower at very least.
And you can do the Wim Hof breathing beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's
Get
happened
into
to
the-
what's happened to Durban? Durban used to have a vibe, a
Sewage.
confidence.
I think it was sewage.
It's become a real shithole, to use Donald Trump's
Unfortunately.
term.
It's the sewage.
Like, I wouldn't.
But I don't know for sure. Hey, somebody was telling me that that mall,
The new one in Umhlanga? Umhlanga?
has
Schlong.
in
Umhlanga.
the very one
Yeah.
has a higher turnover than or a similar turnover to Sandton City, which means that maybe Durban Central, like the but
Maybe.
Umhlanga
Umhlanga.
has in fact Umhlanga As in-
Thank you.
has in fact
Now we know how to say it. We're just saying it like
Yeah, it's-
default.
it's brilliant. Yeah, I know.
Has in fact that's where the rest of the Joburg crew has moved.
Someone in the comments said, "What happened to Rebecca?" But who cares? We do. Let's not even go
Sure.
there.
Yes.
So while we're talking about that, I do think that Sandton City is still it's an artifact in some ways. And I saw they're turning 50.
Yeah.
They've got a big
Yeah.
sign
Can you
up
believe it?
yeah.
that says they're turning 50. But I wondered about this because you pay attention to these things. And I've read a couple of your columns where you talk about those luxury stores in that Diamond Walk. Right? It's a fascinating cultural experiment that's going on here. People line up. They only let a few people in at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
time
Yeah.
to these stores.
It's like a club.
But
It
people
was
are,
the old that
Right.
was why you did it, to create a sense of
Exclusivity.
yeah, you need to be in there.
but
So
they'll only
therefore line
let
up.
4 shoppers in at a time. And then people who there can't be that many rich people. Maybe it's not rich people, it's poor people who are going to spend a whole lot of their money on something that will make them feel a whole lot better. What do you think is going on there? It's not just the
are you
club
asking
thing.
me about like consumerist culture?
Yeah, especially when it comes to like Louis Vuitton and Gucci.
A little bit of I mean, what do they do? Unboxing on
Yeah, because
the
when
Instagram.
when that who's
gram.
that Floyd Mayweather came here,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then there was all
Oh,
this noise about
Gareth
how
was so pissed.
he spent, I don't know, 75,000 rand on a pair of shoes. It turned out to be nonsense. It was made up.
Yeah.
But people seem to be just in a very irrational way, obsessed with what other people are doing with their money when it comes to luxury goods,
Yeah.
especially in this country. So what do you think that is?
Well, I mean, are you asking me about
you wanna-
capitalism?
Do you want to think about it while I tell Gareth what I think?
Yeah.
People, some people in this country have their priorities in the wrong place. People that can't afford to purchase Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all of that stuff are going to Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all that stuff to buy these things, right? And that's a big part of almost like I have to look a certain way so that I can get more respect. It's the same concept as when you go to the clubs. You go to the clubs and it's the same people raking up bills of 126,000 Rand in one night.
Popping the bottles.
Popping the bottles. You have no business spending that much money on alcohol in one night, but you want to look flashy, you want to look cool, you want to look like the guy. That's a big
This
part
is your
of
way of getting social cachet.
That's it. That is literally it. And that's what's happening at these Gucci stores. Half these people, they can't afford it, but there they are buying this stuff. And how they're getting the money to buy it, and not all of them, but how they're getting the money to buy that stuff is also like, it's a bit sus. It's questionable.
Of course. Look, I've been in store entertainment in many of these places
Right.
where, and have seen like sort of their top customers.
Yeah.
And there's a circulation of the same customers going around from place to place. And obviously the stores cultivate them.
Yeah.
And it is a combination of people. So I think there's like definitely the very there is a lot of wealth
Yeah. Look,
in
there is.
from various sources, legitimate, illegitimate, whatever. Of course, there's lots of people coming in with like straight up cash,
Yeah.
especially during COVID. I mean, in COVID, it was fascinating. That's when those queues started forming, because they weren't letting people in at the same time, and there was a lot of different cash that was coming in from the PPE stuff. So that was like very interesting. There were people who, because they suddenly got this cash and they needed to
Wash it.
Wash it with the
or
quickness.
just do what it was that they always dreamed of getting. So it's a twofold thing. One is, if you think about the money that is spent marketing these brands and generating these ideas around what is luxury and why you would want it. And the brands themselves are very careful about like generating two kinds of things. One, they want the like really exclusive stuff that you have to be in the know. And then they have like these lost leaders, things which people want to enter and demonstrate some kind of all these things
Some kind of
that you've
belonging.
arrived.
Yeah.
It's an arrival. It's an
That's all.
aspirational culture.
Yeah.
Like
And
we
it-
live
and-
in
and
a very
again,
aspirational
But I
culture.
suppose like if there's a theme that's going through
And that
this,
is Instagram, that is
Yes, I was
social
gonna say
media,
the pressure as well.
that is stuff that says, which is much more heightened than
Yeah.
it even
But
was.
if
because
if there's a theme that goes through all of this, it's kind of like, do we let people make terrible decisions, whether it's vaping, spending every cent of their paycheck on a pair of shoes, going to, extraordinary lengths to impress other people, eating hamburgers instead of eating salads. Like,
or do we find Putin to come tell them what to do?
right? So, like, are those the only two options? Because if we say there's a balance in between, you're going to end up with, again, I'll never forget, there was this guy who I interviewed years ago called Yusuf Saluji. He was with the South African Anti-Smoking Coalition or something. And this guy was such a smoke Nazi. He was such an authoritarian that after I'd interviewed him, I thought, I almost want to start smoking just because I'd rather do that than end up like him.
I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah, when you meet certain people, like there was a period
put you
where
off.
Yeah.
I was exposed to like a very, very like authoritarian environmentalist. And I just wanted to start a landfill in my back garden. Like, I am planting nappies.
I'm going to show you.
You're rebellious. That's basically what you
I'm
are.
going to plant all the nappies.
Yeah.
Listen, I love seeing you. I love talking to you. And it's so good to have you in the studio again.
Indeed. So
Keep
much
writing.
fun.
Keep writing your good stuff. We love to hear from you. And we'll see you again soon, I suppose.
I think we should
What
have
a
a
nice
hot
idea.
brunch
That's a good idea.
here where I will write
seen our
my
garden?
column.
Have you seen our
Yes.
garden?
I will
Nice.
come and do my interview of you over
Ooh.
brunch. And we'll
Okay.
put it in the Sunday Times. That old
That old rag.
rag of mine.
I
Don't you think that will be fun?
I did
Then
use it
I
a few.
will
I did use it a
interview
few.
you.
I used it a few times this winter for making fires.
And we have our users. And we are also very, very mindful of the fact that today's news is tomorrow's kitty litter.
Damn
Or
right.
even
That keeps you humble, right?
it does.
Yeah.
It's lovely to see you. Thank
And
you,
you.
Aspasia. Lebang, we'll be back
Yeah,
next week with you, but
sure.
also back tomorrow morning early for, among other things, the Burning Platform with Pumi Mashiko. And it's going to be, as always, hot. Good guest coming on to join us tomorrow. Someone who I think everybody's going to want to hear from. He is a mayor who's got his hands full at the moment with strikes and all kinds of things. And definitely someone we haven't had on the show before. So not Cape Town. No cold plunge
Yeah,
mayors.
that was my first thought. Like, strikes, Cape Town.
So that'll be interesting. Tomorrow, all of that and more on the way. Have an awesome day, everybody.